As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think GB News is completely unique in the way that we interact with our viewers.
Our audience aren't afraid to have their say. They want their voices heard now, and they've got a channel where that can happen.
I find more and more as I'm wandering around, people come up to me and they say, "We saw you on television." I say, "Oh yes, on what?" "On GB News." "Hello, are you the famous Sue?"
The whole crew hit me here now. We came to celebrate.
It's our job to be the eyes and ears of the viewers.
They are part of the GBNews family, and I'm pleased to say it's a very large family.
And if people go to the time and trouble of listening and watching, then we've got to do a good job for them.
Well, I'm here right in the epicentre of the protest.
Here we go again.
You just tuned in. Where have you been?
It is raucous here tonight.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Very, very good afternoon to you and a very, very happy Monday. It's another beautiful afternoon and it's 3 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you faithfully as ever until 6. A cracking show awaits, and here's what's on today's menu. Today, Reform UK pledged to stop all benefits for foreigners.
The British taxpayer is acting as the welfare state for the world. That's unfair. We all know it.
Well, Reform UK claim the scheme will save British taxpayers £21 billion per year within 5 years, a £50 billion total saving. But both the Labour Party and the Conservatives have piled in, saying scrapping benefits for European Union citizens will drag Britain back into the Brexit negotiations. Here's today's big question. Should charity begin at home, and should benefits be denied to immigrants? A fury has erupted after it emerged that Henry Novak's killer, Vikram Digwa, is enjoying Zoom calls with his mother, Kiran Kaur, also jailed, of course, for concealing Henry Novak's murder weapon. Should killers enjoy such perks when the Novaks will never get to see their beloved son ever again? And locals in Gronant in North Wales are over the moon. The plans to convert their beloved village hall into luxury accommodation for asylum seekers has been temporarily paused. Locals in the Flintshire village have been left betrayed and blindsided by the Home Office, but is their struggle truly over? Well, we'll be live from the village on the front line of the HMO Battle of Britain. And Britain is preparing to release criminals early while hundreds of cells sit empty inside a brand new £400 million super prison. What on earth is going on, and could this problem be solved? We'll find out why. And we'll be on a campsite in West Sussex to find out why more and more Brits are choosing to carry on camping for their summer holidays, and that's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. We've got an action-packed week ahead, and today's top story, Reform UK are saying they will block benefits for all people born overseas. That could be a £50 billion total saving, £21 billion per year in the next 5 years. But it's exhumed the battle of Brexit because, of course, baked into the withdrawal agreement was the notion that European Union citizens in the UK should get benefits in return for Brits abroad getting the same deal. But here's the point. 750,000 of those from the EU get benefits in Britain versus only 30,000 Brits in the European Union themselves. It's one-way traffic, as usual. And is it proof that we never actually got Brexit done? Do you think charity should begin at home? Do you think scrapping benefits for foreigners is a sensible policy? Get in touch. gbnews.com/your say is a way to do so, or scan the QR code on your screens now. Enough for me. Here's your headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Martin, thank you and good afternoon. Your headlines at 3 minutes past 3. Robert Jenrick has vowed to end the foreign welfare rip-off and restore fairness to the system as he unveiled plans to strip foreign nationals of their right to claim almost all benefits in Britain under a reform government. The party says the move could save around £21 billion annually. However, the ban would cover European Union nationals with settled status in the UK, something that would require reform to renegotiate the Brexit deal with Brussels, and it could potentially mean British expatriates in the EU losing equivalent rights. It's all part of a wider welfare shake-up, which will scrap key benefits to save £50 billion a year in total. The party's Treasury spokesperson also said, as part of its welfare to work policy, long-term claimants who are fit to work will be forced to do 20 hours of work a week in the community.
The British taxpayer is acting as the welfare state for the world. That's unfair. We all know it. There are 6.6 million working-age people in the UK claiming out-of-work benefits. Among their number are many who can work, who should work, but have chosen not to.
It has emerged that Andy Burnham exchanged messages with someone impersonating Donald Trump's chief of staff. The Prime Minister was in contact with an unknown individual pretending to be top White House aide Susie Wiles before concerns were raised about the incident. It is understood no messages of significance were sent, and the suspicious activity was quickly reported to the appropriate authorities. The government is facing calls to publish the criteria for issuing emergency alerts following criticism that the national wildfire warning was unnecessary. Head of the Cabinet Office, Louise Hay, is understood to have signed off on the nationwide alert, which warned that barbecues and fireworks could start wildfires. The government has insisted the move met the required threshold and said it had taken the decision after a direct request from emergency services. However, according to the Telegraph newspaper, a 2014 Cabinet Office report warned that overusing mobile alerts would undermine public confidence in the system. But Minister of State for Housing and Planning Matthew Pennycook told GB News it was an entirely appropriate response.
We're telling people to not start open fires, to be very careful about how they dispose of cigarettes. That's absolutely right. And if that alert prevented the loss of one home, if it helped keep people safe, I think it was worth it. But of course, as I say, we've got to use those emergency alerts judiciously and sparingly, but I think it was entirely appropriate to issue them following the request of the fire and rescue services to do so.
You're up to date on GB News. Now it's back to Martin.
Thank you very much indeed, Sophia. Let's get cracking on another huge week in British politics, beginning right now. This morning, Reform UK announced plans to ban foreign nationals from claiming almost all types of benefits in Britain if the party wins power.
The British taxpayer is acting as the welfare state for the world. That's unfair. We all know it. There are 6.6 million working-age people in the UK claiming out-of-work benefits. Among their number are many who can work, who should work, but have chosen not to.
Well, the proposal announced this morning is part of a wider plan to cut more than £50 billion a year from Britain's welfare bill. And Reform UK says restricting benefits access for foreign nationals could save around £21 billion annually within 5 years. Well, I'm delighted to be joined in the studio in Westminster by GB News' chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster. He was there today and indeed asked the first and the best question. Catherine, let's start with the top line, eye-line grabbing figure, £21 billion a year to be saved per year if benefits are axed for foreigners. Tell us the details.
Yes, so that's what they are saying. And what is striking about this is they previously said if you're a foreigner, you wouldn't qualify for universal credit. Now they're saying if you're a foreigner, you're not going to get anything at all. So job seekers allowance, child benefit, any of these things. And it would also apply to people with EU settled status who, of course, got that as part of the Brexit deal. So I asked Robert Jenrick, you remember that he was a Conservative minister. Boris Johnson's government got that landslide back in 2019, saying get Brexit done because people were sick to the back teeth of it. And I said, are the public going to thank you for going back there again. Let's see what he said in response.
And it is not fair that British citizens are paying billions and billions of pounds every year to people who are not even Brits at all. 1/5 of universal credit claimants are not Britain. They're not British. That's crazy. Just imagine what we can do with that money. Now, there's clearly going to be a renegotiation. The deal that was done, I don't believe was a good deal. I think many people would support that. There are a number of points on which Reform has already made clear that we will need to return to our neighbours in the EU and renegotiate upon. And this will be one of them. Let's see. I'm confident that we can do that and we can restore fairness in the process. But
and it's not unreasonable also. I mean, that deal was now 7 years ago. And time of the next general election, it might be a decade after the original deal. And that's what you do with deals. You see which bits are working and which bits are not working. And this is one of those bits that's not working in the same way that actually net stupid zero. I mean, we signed up to that as part of the whole Brexit deal. It's a catastrophe. One of the greatest policy mistakes this century.
They later said they would be confident that Nigel Farage would get them a great deal with the EU. So that's very eye-catching. Also, the fact that they're pretty much abolishing PIP, personal independence payments. The number of people claiming that has doubled over the last 10 years. And Robert Jenrick is saying that he's going to replace it with what he calls a health security allowance. So only those who are the most in need will qualify, and most or a lot of mental health conditions, you simply won't qualify. He reckons that will cut the costs in half. There's a bit of a risk there in that Reform support is strongest in areas that are quite deprived, where many people have got sort of long-term health conditions, and so there are high numbers in those constituencies of people claiming PIP. How it will go down with them in seats that Reform hope to win, I don't think is clear. Another thing that's I thought was eye-catching was they are saying if you've been out of work for 12 months or longer, we will make you do 20 hours a week of community service, which still leaves you time to look for jobs, whether it's working in your local library or in the local park or whatever, and if you don't do it, your benefits will be taken.
Catherine Forza, an excellent summary as ever. Stick with me, I'd be keen to get your opinion of my next guest's take. And I'm delighted now to be joined by the Shadow Work and Pension Secretary and the Conservative Member of Parliament, Helen Whatley. Helen, it's a pleasure to have your company as ever. Welcome to GB News. Conservative voters are very, very in favour of cutting back on benefits. The overriding majority, in fact, agree with that. So what's your take on today's policy pledge by Reform UK?
It's good to see Reform at last talking about this. We've been talking about our plan to make welfare savings for many months. We set out last year our plan to make £23 billion worth of savings. Really carefully thought through, actually, because it's not easy to come up with cuts that will really work to welfare. And you want to make sure that while you're getting the cost of welfare under control, which people really want to see, I want to see, which we know we need as a country, you also want to make sure you've still got a safety net for those with really serious disabilities who need help. Sometimes, in fact, more help than they're getting under the current system. So you need to think this through really carefully. Now, until now, we've seen Reform be on the side of more welfare spending, particularly because they didn't want to keep the two-child benefit cap. They didn't vote with us on that. We wanted to keep that cap. The government has scrapped it. That's where Reform was on that, wanting more spending on welfare. Now, at least, they're going, OK, actually, we need to get the welfare bill under control. So that's something. There's also several things in what they've announced today, which are actually policies that I've already been talking about and setting out. For instance, turning the cash payments to people with mental health, milder mental health conditions who are getting PIP into support. That's something I've been saying we need to do for a while. So there, where Reform is adopting some of our policies, that is a good thing to see. That's becoming a change in the overall political debate. But I will say overall, where they've come up with a very big eye-catching number, it's easy to come up with a big number to get a headline. The question is whether you can actually really do that in practice and come up with a fair, reasonable welfare system as a result.
OK, Helen, a lot of people obviously would say it's OK to cry over spilled milk, but there was the Conservatives that oversaw a ballooning benefits bonanza, particularly to those coming in from overseas. We have to, of course, remember the Boris wave, 1 million in 1 year. Didn't help at all, no doubt. You've also been critical today by saying Reform UK are exhuming the battle of Brexit, because, of course, if Reform UK wanted to stop benefits to 750,000 more or less EU nationals living here, then that would reopen the Brexit negotiation. But is this actually proof, Helen, that the Conservatives didn't get Brexit done at all? A lot of people might be staggered to find out that Boris Johnson's Brexit withdrawal agreement left Britain on the hook to picking up the benefits bill for 750,000 people born in the European Union.
Our policies on welfare include that we would stop giving benefits to foreign nationals and stop giving social housing to foreign nationals. But we have recognised that we have obligations under international agreements, the biggest one of which is for EU settled status citizens. And we want to make sure that our plans are ones that are realistic and credible and can be delivered. What we've got here with Reform is their savings figure depends on a renegotiation of the Brexit deal. That has huge uncertainty about it. In fact, as they're going in already saying that in the event they were to do this, they're putting their cards on the table here. They have to secure this part of any future deal. That's a really weak negotiating position to go in. So to me, there is no guarantee
but
they
Helen,
will
I'm
get a better deal for the country.
If I may, just pointing out the facts, that the fact we're exhuming the battle of Brexit is because the Conservatives agreed to a deal that left Britain on the hook for paying benefits to 750,000 people born on the continent of Europe. That's a huge sum of money, and only 57% of those people work. 43% of that entire benefits budget is people born in the EU that don't do a stroke of work. I mean, this is precisely the kind of thing that Conservatives surely would like to cut back on.
Saying they want to reopen Brexit and they want to have another negotiation with the European Union. It just is, let's be real, let's be straight with people. Let's not make false promises and pretend that that's going to be any kind of easy negotiation. There's clearly questions of trade, there's questions of migrants, lots of things will come into it. So it's not going to be just a simple bit of like, I'm a big guy and I'm going to show up and I'm going to necessarily have a successful negotiation. Negotiations just don't work like that. It depends on the power balance on each side. One other thing I just want to flag that's in Reform's announcements today is requiring businesses to take out insurance to cover the sickness costs of their staff. And that's something which has been bounced around by think tanks for a number of years. I've had conversations about it, and it's a policy in the Netherlands. But there is a problem with that policy. One is that it's a significant amount of red tape to pose on businesses. And they're talking about this affecting quite small businesses with only 6 employees or more. So on the one hand, red tape. On the other hand, there's a significant cost to businesses. Now, I said this yesterday, in fact, that it could well cost more than Reform think it's going to. And Rob Jennett was asked about this in the press conference. Instead of defending his numbers, he actually admitted, yes, it might cost more, so we might have to spend more. So already you're seeing, literally on the day they're making the formal announcement, they might have to spend more. That means that 50 billion figure unwrapped.
Helen, if I may interject again, a poll out very recently from YouGov, 77% of Conservative Party voters are dissatisfied with the benefit system in Britain and believe Britain is too generous to the rest of the world. So you agree with Reform UK on this. It just seems that you don't like the idea because it's not your idea.
We have thought hard already about how to bring down the welfare bill. I know that that's what the public want to see. I know that's what the country needs. We can't afford to continue to have this level of spending on welfare. And in fact, the pace at which the welfare bill is going up, we can't afford that. It's also not right to have millions of people of working age not working and contributing to our economy.
So why didn't the Conservatives clamp down on all this when you were in power for 14 years? That's a question I can hear everybody screaming that's watching the TV and listening to the radio now, Helen.
Just answer the question you asked me a moment ago and then come to that. So that's why we already announced a £23 billion worth of savings. We also have a fundamental review into the sickness benefit system going on at the moment to really think through the best way to stop the abuse of that system while making sure that the right support is there for people who really need it. This stuff is serious. It takes hard work. So it's easy to come up with a big number, to come up with a number that grabs a headline, but if you can't back it up, that is no good at all to anybody. That's why I'm not saying, hey, great, well done, reform, because they've just got a big number. And really, already, it is unravelling. It's a cobbled together plan. To your question about what happened when we were in government, so between 2010 and the pandemic, we brought the welfare bill down.
But then the pandemic blew the whole doors off the entire system.
Into work. So something that happened, it's a pandemic and also at the same time, a really significant increase in people claiming for mental health reasons and neurodiversity.
People got used to something for nothing. But the fact of the matter is, Helen, people got used to for something for nothing. Workshire Britain took a hold. At the same time, we had the Boris wave coming in. The entire wheels came off the machine. And I think people can reasonably level quite a lot of that blame at the Conservative government's door.
This began to happen in 2019, and particularly, as I say, driven by this increase in claiming for mental health reasons. And that's why, in fact, when we were in government, there was work done on some reforms for that. Labour cancelled them, and why I've done a lot of work in my time in this job as Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions on our reforms to stop all of those claims coming through for milder mental health, and instead of giving people cash, to say, here's the support to help improve your mental health and get into work. Something actually Reform has adopted as part of their policies.
Mm-hmm. OK, thank you very much indeed for joining us on the show today. I appreciate your time. That's the Shadow Work and Pension Secretary, Conservative MP, Helen Whatley. Thank you very much indeed, Helen. Now, I want to get a quick response to you. Camilla Tominey had a bit of a blazing row with Mark Francois on her show yesterday, and she was basically saying, why are you channeling all of your chagrin towards Reform UK when actually the real foe is the Labour Party? And I wonder if this feels like a bit of the same today. It's like, I just quoted the figures there. 77% of Conservative voters think Britain is too generous with its benefits. Reform today come out with a policy. The Tories clearly agree. So why do they attack each other? A lot of people watching all this thinking the Conservatives and Reform seem to agree on a lot of stuff, but they just always seem to be falling out. And that's obviously going from both ways.
Well, yes, because Nigel Farage has said he wants to destroy the Conservatives and to replace them. The Conservatives obviously do not like being behind in the polls where they were used to being, well, in government, and now they are, nominally the party of opposition, but Reform has a way of getting the headlines. But it's a real problem for the right, isn't it? Because at the moment, we've got these two parties both polling, 20% around about for the Tories, 25 or 6 for Reform. Add those two together, you're nearly at 50%. And yet they are so divided, they're so busy picking holes in each other's homework. And meanwhile, there's Andy Burnham, new Prime Minister, likes social media, friendly, talks like a normal person. Voters from the Greens flocking back to him. And, you just wonder whether the temptation might be at some point in the next few months to call an election.
Wow. Well, that certainly will put the cat amongst the pigeons. Catherine Forster, superb as ever. Thank you very much. And you always ask the best questions. Thank you very much indeed. Now, in response to Reform's announcement earlier on today, a government spokesman has told GB News this. These plans would mean ripping up the UK's withdrawal agreements with the European Union, plunging the UK back into years of Brexit renegotiations and stripping support from potentially millions of people who have lawfully lived, worked and paid taxes in Britain for years and, in many cases, decades. Brexit is back on the menu. I've got to say, I love it. Now, time now for Great British Giveaway. You've got 2 weeks left now, just 2 weeks left to grab your chance to win 60 grand cash, tax-free, beg your pardon, and of course a gold bar worth £5,000. Here's your favourite, Hayley Sparks, with all of the details.
Welcome to All is Santi by Domes Resorts. There's just 4 days left to see how you could win big in our golden summer celebration.
And you could be enjoying a golden year with an incredible £60,000 to be won.
That's tax-free cash that you'll get to spend on anything you like. What would you do with it?
you could relax knowing that we've got those day-to-day financial pressures sorted.
Or find yourself celebrating in the lap of five-star luxury, somewhere like here, the Spritzeria.
Plus, we'll give you a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 that you can keep or gift to a loved one.
Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on Friday.
For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck with that, and still to come, locals in Gronant in North Wales in Flintshire. They're over the moon that plans to convert their beloved village hall into luxury accommodation for asylum seekers has been temporarily, quotes, paused. So, is their struggle truly over, or is the battle of HMO Britain still raging? We'll be there live next to find out, speak to locals there. Plus, also coming after the break, nearly 350 cells of Britain's most expensive new super prison are simply sitting empty, unused, despite the UK apparently facing a severe capacity crisis. That's a super problem at a super prison, and that's next here on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the late edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, late edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, late edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time is 3:27. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, what a story. Britain's newest super prison, costing £400 million, has hundreds of empty cells because it cannot recruit enough staff. HMS Millsike near York has space for 1,500 prisoners, but still has 350 cells left completely empty. A brand new prison with prisoners unable to fill those rooms. Well, it's understood the Ministry of Justice has warned the Prime Minister he cannot exempt specific offenders without also keeping every other offender convicted of the same crime in prison, hence all the furore over the potential early release of the killers of PC Andrew Harper. I'm delighted now to speak to my next guest. That's the sexual abuse survivor, Vicky Crawford. Vicky, welcome back to the show. The last time you were on, I got very, very moved by your story. You were abused from a child. This early release scheme could be impacting your life. We're told continually that's because we don't have the prison spaces. So how does it make you feel as a survivor who could face the early release of your abuser? To find out today, we've got 344 cells completely empty at HMP Millsike, which would almost swallow the entire number of 470 early releases that are set to come out soon.
Well, it's mind-boggling to think that this situation has got to this point where there's obviously spaces that are available. Maybe the government should consider doing an overall audit of all prison spaces. Instead of, these stories, and they're quite embarrassing stories for the government at this point, maybe look at exactly what they have in the prison estate in its entirety, and then go from there and start looking at the exemptions that they can or can't offer. But I'm guessing 350 would be a cohort of manslaughter offenders. I mean, I don't know how many are in the prison, but I can't imagine there's thousands of them. So that would certainly address an issue to do with Lucy Harper's family. I just don't understand how it's got to this point where there's this drip feed of scandal going on around prison spaces and it's seemingly a sensible idea to audit all spaces rather than just, some is here.
Vicky, you're absolutely right, because when you dig a bit further, you look into this, there are actually 4,000 prison spaces in our Victorian prison stock, which apparently aren't suitable. They're fallen into disrepair. They're old jails, we get that. There are also an additional 1,800 spaces which presently are not occupied because of fire safety issues. Now, if you add all that together, you've got over 5,000 prison spaces there, and surely, Vicky, it's not beyond the wit of a government that can find accommodation on RAF sites, on army barracks for asylum seekers, just to throw everything they've got at this to make these jails good, to make sure people like you aren't faced with the trauma of having your abuser released.
I mean, you'd think that's the logical solution, isn't it? And also use the military sites that they were going to use for migrants instead, because it would keep the community much safer if people who were convicted of violent crimes, sex offences, domestic violence is one that's absolutely terrifying me at the moment, because there's so many women at the moment who are terrified that their perpetrators are not exempt. So it would make sense to look at look at what they've got, repurpose it, look at the women's prisons and, get some of those released that aren't in there for violent crimes. They're in there for, council tax and TV licence. Start getting those people out. And indeterminate sentences, I've said this before. It just does not make sense that there's prison spaces sitting empty when there's such a massive crisis.
And Vicky, putting the pounds and the pence to one side, putting the politics to one side, all of this for you must be incredibly traumatising. It's bringing something back to the fore, which you've tried to, not bury, but you've tried to cope the very best you can to have a normal life, to try and put this trauma behind you. Every time these stories break out, tell us about the human impact that has on yourself and other survivors?
For me personally, I had just got to the point in the sentence where I was starting to feel normal again. I'd gotten over the trauma of the trial. I was starting to feel like I had an angle on my life again. And then this happened. And I have honestly felt like there's been days where it's felt like the darkest days during the court process, waiting to establish whether or not, and I still don't know, by the way, after talking to you about the loophole a couple of weeks ago, I still am none the wiser whether or not he's exempt. And there's hundreds of historical offences, just like mine, who are in the same boat that I'm in. It's exhausting at this point. I'm mentally and physically exhausted. I'd just like to know what's going on. And I'm sure that there's a lot of other people who feel the same way. It's just sheer exhaustion. Not knowing where you are is the worst part of it.
You know, Vicky, you got me going again because it's just so unfair. You know, it really is just so unfair. It's like when I spoke with you before, it's like I want you to understand, you know, that people care about you. People care about your story. You know, people care about injustice. People care about early release. They sincerely and genuinely from their hearts care about people like you. You know that, don't you?
Yeah, no, I do. I do know that. And I know that survivors like me have been given a lot of time to be able to, you know, talk about the effects that it's having. And generally, everyone that supports me, thank you. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully, we'll get there at some point, and hopefully we'll get the outcome that all survivors and survivors of domestic violence deserve.
OK, Vicky Crawford, we're going to leave it there. Thanks for coming on. I know it's not easy for you to continually revisit this, but I think the only way we can try and move on is to have these raw conversations. I want to thank you again for your time, Vicky. Sending much love from myself, all of the team at GB News, all of our viewers and listeners. Vicky Crawford, you're a beautiful person. Thank you. A Ministry of Justice spokesperson has told GB News this. We're working at pace to bring every available prison place online and have always been clear that new prisons require a ramp-up period to ensure they remain safe, secure and protect the public. And we're also exploring how we can go further to increase capacity, including faster deportation of foreign criminals, better use of the women's estate and reviewing the unjust imprisonment for public protection sentences. And a spokesperson for Mitie, M-I-T-I-E, said this: HMP Millsite continues to operate in line with the ramp-up plans agreed with the MOJ, with staffing and recruitment aligned to the prison's phased population build-up. And we remain focused on maintaining a safe, secure and supportive environment for prisoners and colleagues. Still to come, locals in Gronant in North Wales are over the moon that plans to convert their beloved village hall into luxury accommodation for asylum seekers into HMOs has been temporarily, quotes, paused. But here's the question: is their struggle really over, or is the battle of HMO Britain still raging in the tiny Welsh village? We'll be there live next to find out and speak to locals here on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Cloud thickening during the rest of today from the north, and it's in the north where it will become increasingly wet. Light showers will affect the south overnight, but no substantial rain expected to relieve the situation, at least for the next few days. We've actually seen some sunshine during the day so far across Wales and the southwest, but the cloud does fill in for many places overnight. The heaviest rain moves through Scotland, pushing into Orkney by midnight, and it swings across northern parts of England, North Wales and so on before it turns more showery at the end of the night. Cloudy skies, a mild night for many, temperatures staying in the teens. Then a grey and damp start for much of the UK first thing Tuesday. The most persistent rain still lingering across the far north and northeast of Scotland. Meanwhile, it's more of a showery picture for western Scotland, drier and clearer to the east. Northern Ireland seeing plenty of showers first thing, not particularly heavy. They'll be moving through reasonably quickly as well. Much of northern and western England, as well as central parts, and for Wales, thick cloud giving some light showers, but again, nothing substantial expected at the moment. Those showers will continue through the morning, and then as the afternoon approaches, in the south the cloud will lift and break, sunny spells emerge. Another day in which it will feel humid, but it's still going to be a little cooler compared with recent days. And for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, a lot of thick cloud, frequent showers, if not longer spells of rain for some, largely avoiding Shetland, however, where it will be cool, 13 Celsius. In the south, 25, 26 Celsius, more likely, given the thinning of the cloud and sunshine coming through. Some clear spells in the far south for a time into the evening. And then we've got this system, areas of rain moving into the south. And actually, the picture from Wednesday onwards is of a more unsettled outlook, with frequent showers for many.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M27 westbound is closed at Junction 2 in Romsey. The M5 northbound is affected by a collision between junctions 8 and 7. The M20 is closed between junctions 7 and 9 in Bearsted. The M6 is closed between junctions 15 and 16 in Stoke-on-Trent. In Scotland, the A9 is closed in both directions at Dunkeld. Across Wales, the M4 westbound from J24 Coldra to J26 Malpas is congested with possible delays. And on the trains, Greater Anglia services are facing major disruption between Shenfield and Southend Victoria, with further disruption between Witham and Chelmsford. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Time is 3:39. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, a tiny Welsh village was left outraged after it was revealed that the Home Office planned to house asylum seekers in its old village hall. But now the government says it's listening to local concerns and has paused the plans. But will it be scrapped altogether, or will the battle of HMO Britain still be raging in the tiny village in Flintshire? Let's get there now and join our GB News national reporter, Sophie Reaper, who joins us from Gronant. Sophie Reaper, a huge talking point. The locals were up in arms, covered on this channel extensively, and now a temporary reprieve. What's the mood on the ground?
Well, Martin, I think the main mood is that residents here just simply feel blindsided. They had no idea until it was revealed last week. And then over the weekend, we heard from the Home Office that the plans had been paused. But what exactly does the word paused mean? Of course, villagers also having to contend with a new security system being implemented and a new, much heavier police presence. In the last few minutes, 3 police cars have now pulled up outside these buildings, 13 out of 15, which have been designated as potential for migrants. Now, joining me this afternoon is Ted Huthwaite, who is a community worker here. Thank you so much for joining us. Talk to me about the initial reaction when you first learned what was proposed for these buildings here behind us. What was your initial reaction?
My reaction was absolutely devastating. To be fair, it was made for the community of around Britain, for people to be housed in asylum seekers and stuff like that is absolutely disgraceful, to be fair. We need to come to a balance. We need to come to sort of discretion together to try and pull together as much as possible. 13 out of 15 is just far too much within the Gronant community, and it just affects the community so much of wondering why there's 13 out of 15 when really there's people on the streets every day of home Britain that are homeless, from our veterans to single women that have families and everything else. It's not fair. They're on the streets too. They also need the help too. It's great being on pause and things look like moving forward that way, but again, being paused, we don't know what the answer is still, and we're still being put in silence. We're moving forward with next steps and stuff like that. With whatever happens, we're still looking out. We're still looking out for the community of Gronant, and we're going to stand by them as much as possible, because at this moment it's not fair at all what any resident is being put through around this town at all. It's not fair at all.
So essentially you're still in the dark, aren't you, with it being paused? You don't know what that means or how long it will be for. But we were talking earlier, in the last kind of 24, 48 hours, there's some graffiti appeared on the side of that house just behind you. What do you think of that? Is that the answer?
Disgraceful. That is not the answer at all. The answer is come together and work as a community, not vandalising the properties that could potentially go to the British people afterwards if things can be brought to a balance. We're all there to try and help as much as possible with the asylum seekers, but like I said, we need to come to that balance. We're being overcrammed now, we're being overcrowded with absolutely everything, and our people also need to be thought of too and not just be let in the light. And if anything like this does happen again, please just come up to us and open. I know it wasn't Flintshire Council's fault, they got silenced all the way through it, and that wasn't fair, so I can't say it's Flintshire Council. So on that half, they can still work with the residents or along the side to try and find some truth beyond this, and to try and keep working with the residents and keep them really open about it, to just stop all this. So as far as I'm concerned, they're going to be angry, they're going to be really upset. There's been mishaps that has happened on here, like arrests and stuff, that we are not very happy with at all, and it's really, really unfair. So vandalism like that is not going to solve the solution. It's just going to then cause proper, you know, people coming here protesting and whatever else, and it's just completely, we're not looking for that. We're just looking for a fair community balance that we can all come together and live as one. And as far as I'm concerned, like we said, 3 asylum seeker families living as one fam, you know, not a problem, but they should not be taking over the whole estate like this, the way it is, not at all.
Ted, we really appreciate your time this afternoon, and thank you so much.
you.
There we go. They want balance here in this tiny village in North Wales. There's 1,600 people living here, Martin, and they say that they don't mind doing their fair share, but that 13 out of 15 is just too great a number.
You know, Sophie Reaper, looking at the graffiti there, which your man there, local, condemned it, I think it does raise a serious point, though. When Andy Burnham said last week to GB News, to Chris Hope, everyone has to take their fair share, including middle-class communities, that graffiti there saying this is not England's dumping ground, it makes people feel very raw about the fact that something, let's be honest, happens on England's south coast a lot, airports too, but the feeling that people are being shifted into North Wales, you know, it's causing the locals there a lot of annoyance, and it's a political problem for Andy Burnham. If he believes everyone has to take their fair share, and the locals there clearly disagree.
Yeah, and I think that vandalism really just does show that sense of anger that they're feeling, Martin. And of course, you make that valid point. This is not the first time we've seen a small town or village having to endure this. I remember a couple of years ago being in Millom up in Cumbria, a really tiny village similar to this, who were told that they were gaining a couple of hundred asylum seekers in HMOs, and they were up in arms about it, because for these people here in the communities, they say they've got one shop here, Martin. They've got one shop. They don't have a barber or a hairdresser. They have one doctor, and locals have been telling us how difficult it is to get a doctor's appointment. And that is a huge concern for them, is to do with how this community then continues to function. That is something I think they feel isn't being considered by the powers at large, by the people down in Whitehall. They're not thinking about how these communities take on these huge numbers and then continue to function.
I think you're exactly right, and I think it's a huge political problem. It was for Rishi Sunak, it was for Sir Keir Starmer, and it certainly will be for Andy Burnham. Sophie Reaper, superb work there, live from Flintshire there from Gronants. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on the show. Now, in response, a government spokesperson on behalf of the Home Office has told GB News this: we are working to fairly house asylum seekers across the country, working closely with local authorities and listening to local concerns to reduce the impact on communities. We are closing every asylum hotel and moving asylum seekers into basic accommodation, including ex-military sites. Well, coming up next, we'll be live on a campsite in West Sussex to find out why more and more people are choosing to carry on camping for their summer holidays. Perhaps it's because of the amazing heat wave, but that's not enough for you. If you still would rather go abroad, here's the forecast of some of your top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello there. Apart from the odd isolated
Thunderstorm, most of the Mediterranean will see plenty of dry, hot and sunny weather over the next few days. A bit of a breeze though for Madeira, perhaps bringing the odd shower here on Tuesday. Otherwise, Spain and Portugal, cloudless skies, lots of sunshine here. Perhaps the odd afternoon and evening thunderstorm across the spine of Italy, parts of the Balkans and Greece and Turkey, but these mostly inland, coastal regions remaining generally dry, sunny and hot, and the outlook is for temperatures to remain in the low to mid-30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
4 heat waves, weeks without meaningful rain. As the UK heads towards one of its hottest summers on record, the pressure is showing here in Sussex, in the fruit growing across these fields.
Well, the impact of the heat is already visible here. This local grower says that if these extreme temperatures continue, this year's harvest may well be smaller in size.
I don't think there's been another period like this in the history. 3 years ago, we had a tremendous heat wave in the middle of harvest. We were unable to get the fruit to cool down quickly enough. The following year we had a very, very light crop, and the same again this year.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain's only all-female chess team, called She Plays to Win, has been promoted to the game's top division, only to be told they must recruit a male player to compete. Now, league rules require every First Division team to include at least one male and one female player, meaning that one of the team's female players could lose her place. I'm joined in the studio by the She Plays to Win chess players, Anusha and Alicia. Great to see you both this afternoon.
Thank you.
So sorry about what's going on. You've been promoted, but you might have to lose one of your teammates. What's going on here?
So essentially, we have fallen victim to this rule that She Plays to Win, our team, has been promoted to the First Division in our league, but now must have a male player as part of the rules.
GB News, the People's Channel. Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Well, that drought is due to long periods, record periods actually, with no rainfall and high temperatures. The areas that are affected, as you say, over half of England, half of the UK affected by that. The areas being East Anglia, Hertfordshire, the whole of London, Thames Valley, Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, Devon and Cornwall, the West Midlands and Wessex, covering Dorset, Somerset, Wiltshire and Gloucestershire. So a huge area impacted by that drought. There is also that amber heat health alert still in place here. That's in place until tomorrow. And temperatures today in the south could reach up to 35 degrees. So people here in Bognor Regis coming to the coast to cool down.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 3:51. Welcome back. It's me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the red, hot, scorching summer has been great news for Britain's tourism industry, with more and more of us choosing to go on holiday in this country, me included. Now, one of the areas that's becoming very, very popular is camping. In fact, a survey has found that more than half of us love the idea of spending a night in a tent. Well, GB News reporter Isabel Fekulak is at a campsite in West Wittering in West Sussex. Isabel Fekulak, they're all carrying on camping.
Yes, they are. Good afternoon, Martin. Yes, so many people choosing to camp this year, more than ever before, and that's of course due to the hot weather, also price of flights going up due to the conflict in the Middle East. Lots more people choosing to staycation, and particularly camping. Of course, as you say there, the hot weather will bring more people out to enjoy the great outdoors. This campsite, Scott's Farm family campsite, is just a short walk away from the beautiful West Witterings beach, and I've chatted to lots of campers here who have said that you may as well be abroad when the weather is like it has been, and that survey, like you say, over half of the country, 52% of people saying they would love to spend a night in a tent. 30%, almost a third of the country though, saying they firmly dislike the idea. So Brits slightly divided on that one. I have been chatting to lots of happy campers here today though, and asking them exactly what it is they love about this type of holiday. Take a look.
I think it's been connected to the outdoors, the ability to wake up in the morning and you're straight there in the elements. I think it's really good for the kids. I think they get to experience life is not always super comfortable, but you make the fun of it and you find that you can overcome the discomfort, and then you can do all the fun things you do when you're camping.
What do you love so much about camping?
I think it's got to be the breakfasts outside, all the meals outside, just sitting in the sun, seeing the children run off and play a ball game and just chilling together.
What do you love so much about camping, guys?
Being outdoors and being able to make your own food sometimes. Well, not at the moment, but yeah.
What do you love so much about camping?
Just like being with family and friends and being like able to be in the wildlife.
Well, it's been great to chat to so many people who are enjoying the great outdoors and the beauty right on our doorstep. Though some people dislike the idea of camping, certainly here lots of happy campers, lots of people enjoying the great outdoors.
Thank you very, very much indeed, Isabel. Thank you like that. So I used to go Euro camping loads as a kid. The last time I camped was at a music festival. My neighbour woke me up in the morning, every morning, with his flatulence. Sorry to lower the tone, but I just think sometimes on campsites it's a bit too intimate. Thank you very much indeed to you, Isabel. Now, coming up next, more reaction to Reform UK's pledge today to stop all benefits for foreigners. Is it fair? Will it work? And could it reopen the almighty Brexit wars? Should charity begin at home? That's next, and I'll be joined by Lee Anderson, the Red Wall Rottweiler. That's next here on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Cloud thickening during the rest of today from the north, and it's in the north where it will become increasingly wet. Light showers will affect the south overnight, but no substantial rain expected to relieve the situation, at least for the next few days. We've actually seen some sunshine during the day so far across Wales and the southwest, but the cloud does fill in for many places overnight. The heaviest rain moves through Scotland, pushing into Orkney by midnight, and it swings across northern parts of England, North Wales and so on before it turns more showery at the end of the night. Cloudy skies, a mild night for many, temperatures staying in the teens. Then a grey and damp start for much of the UK first thing Tuesday. The most persistent rain still lingering across the far north and northeast of Scotland. Meanwhile, it's more of a showery picture for western Scotland. Drier and clearer to the east. Northern Ireland seeing plenty of showers first thing, not particularly heavy. They'll be moving through reasonably quickly as well. Much of northern and western England, as well as central parts, and for Wales, thick cloud giving some light showers, but again, nothing substantial expected at the moment. Those showers will continue through the morning, and then as the afternoon approaches, in the south the cloud will lift and break, sunny spells emerge. Another day in which it will feel humid, but it's still going to be a little cooler compared with recent days. And for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, a lot of thick cloud, frequent showers, if not longer spells of rain for some. Largely avoiding Shetland, however, where it will be cool, 13 Celsius. In the south, 25, 26 Celsius, more likely. given the thinning of the cloud and sunshine coming through. Some clear spells in the far south for a time into the evening. And then we've got this system, areas of rain moving into the south. And actually, the picture from Wednesday onwards is of a more unsettled outlook with frequent showers for many.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The M27 westbound is closed between junctions 10 and 9 in Whiteley. The M3 westbound has an obstruction between junctions 2 and 3 in Thorpe. The M20 is closed between junctions 7 and 9 in Bearsted. The M6 is closed between junctions 15 and 16 in Stoke-on-Trent after a collision. In Scotland, the A9 is closed in both directions at Dunkeld. Across Wales, the M4 westbound from J24 Coldra to J26 Malpas is congested with possible delays. And on the trains, Greater Anglia services are facing major disruption between Shenfield and Southend Victoria. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win over £65,000 in prizes.
You could be our latest Great British Giveaway winner.
First of all, we want to give you
£60,000 in tax-free cash. Plus, you'll also receive a fine gold bar worth over £5,000.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you on this beautiful Monday afternoon. Happy Monday to you. It's 4 p.m. Well, welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you loyally as ever until 6. A cracking show awaits, and here's what's on today's menu. Top story this afternoon. Today, Reform UK pledged to stop all benefits for foreigners.
The British taxpayer is acting as the welfare state for the world. That's unfair. We all know it.
As part of a £50 billion a year savings plan from Benefits Reform, claiming the scheme will save British taxpayers £21 billion per year within 5 years if benefits for foreigners alone are cut. But with both the Labour Party and the Tories piling in, they're saying scrapping benefits for EU citizens will drag Britain back into the Brexit renegotiations. Here's the big question this afternoon. Should charity begin at home, and should benefits be denied to immigrants? Now, fury has erupted after it's emerged that Henry Novak's killer, Vikram Digwa, is enjoying Zoom calls with his mum, Kiran Kaur, also jailed, of course, for concealing Henry Novak's murder weapon. Should killers enjoy such perks when the Novaks will never get to see their precious son again? And the Metropolitan Police have claimed success at their much scrutinised stop and search policy today after more than one-third of their searches resulted in police officers finding weapons, drugs or other evidence of offending. And that's the highest fine rate ever recorded by the police force. Today I'll be asking why the scheme has always had so much criticism. And Britain is preparing to release criminals early while hundreds of cells sit empty inside a brand new £400 million super prison. It's a supersized problem at a supersized prison. What on earth is going on? We'll have all the details. And the Housing Secretary, Angela Rayner, is to give pubs extra protections to prevent them from being turned into homes and offices under new planning laws released today. And we'll speak with publicans to ask them if this plan will be enough to help save the beleaguered British boozer and what more they want from the Labour government. And that's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company as ever. I want to say a special thank you to everybody that came and said hello to me in Nottingham this weekend up there with my dad, Bob. We had a fantastic weekend. Love you, Dad. And so many people were coming over and talking politics, talking GB News, saying that seriously, GB News is what helps to keep you sane. Well, I'm happy to do my bit. Special thank you here to John and Sue. I saw them outside the pub. My train was delayed. Hey, when you dealt lemons, make lemonade. Or in this case, a pint of Shipston's beer, the taste of my youth. Thank you very much for your kind words. John there used to work down the pit at Cockgrave with my dad, 47 years down the pit, my old man. John worked there as well. That's his Mrs. Sue. And a quick pint with them. Thanks for your comments and all those others that had photographs, selfies taken over the weekend. I'm afraid most of them are on your phones and I was a little bit worse for wear. But thank you very much indeed for getting in touch. Should benefits be denied to those born overseas? That is the top topic of the show today. Should charity begin at home? It could be a £21 billion saving per year, but it could mean the European Union says there's a big problem because 750,000 people born in the EU claim benefits in Britain versus only 30,000 Brits who live on the European continent. That goes to show, does it not? Brexit never really got done. All's being done is you, the great British taxpayer, paying for foreigners' benefit bills. Get in touch. GBNews.com/you'll say is the way to do so, or scan the QR code on your screens now. But now it's time for your headlines. He's back for more. It's Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you very much. I should have known that would happen after 3 hours of live television already. But first, the headlines. Reform UK says foreign nationals should be banned from claiming almost all benefits in Britain. That ban would cover housing benefit, child benefit, free childcare, disability benefits and other welfare payments. But it would also include EU nationals with settled status, meaning Reform would have to renegotiate parts of the Brexit deal with Brussels. The party also said today that long-term benefit claimants who are fit to work would have to do 20 hours a week in the community or face sanctions. Robert Jenrick says the plan would end what he calls the foreign welfare rip-off and save £21 billion a year.
The British taxpayer is acting as the welfare state for the world. That's unfair. We all know it. There are 6.6 million working-age people in the UK claiming out-of-work benefits. Among their number are many who can work, who should work, but have chosen not to.
Andy Burnham exchanged messages with someone pretending to be Donald Trump's chief of staff. The Prime Minister was contacted by an unknown person posing as the senior White House aide Susie Wiles. Sources say only a few messages were exchanged, no significant information was shared, and the suspicious contact was quickly reported to the appropriate authorities. Downing Street says it does not comment on national security matters, while the White House says the incident had nothing to do with earlier reports of Ms Wiles' phone being hacked. Here, the government is facing calls to publish the criteria for sending emergency alerts after criticism that a national phone warning over the weekend was unnecessary. Cabinet Office Minister Louise Hay is understood to have signed off on the alert, which warned people that barbecues and fireworks could start fires during the heatwave.
Ministers insist the alert did meet the required threshold and say it was sent after a direct request from emergency services battling those blazes. But according to reports, a Cabinet Office report previously warned that overusing mobile alerts could undermine public confidence in the system. The government, though, says that this was an entirely appropriate response. Here's Labour Minister Matthew Pennycook.
We're telling people to not start open fires, to be very careful about how they dispose of cigarettes. That's absolutely right. And if that alert prevented the loss of one home, if it helped keep people safe, I think it was worth it. But of course, as I say, we've got to use those emergency alerts judiciously and sparingly. But I think it was entirely appropriate to issue them following the request of the fire and rescue services to do so.
Tributes have been pouring in today following the death of Hayden Panettiere, best known for her roles in Heroes and Nashville, who sadly died at the age of 36. Oscar winner Viola Davis took to social media earlier to say, "I wish the world had more time with you." Meanwhile, US actress Selma Blair wrote, "Don't be gone, please." Miss Panettiere spoke about giving up her custody of her daughter while struggling with addiction in one of her final interviews before her death. The cause of death has not yet been announced. And the UK could soon be hit by flooding this week, with heavy rain expected to fall on drought-stricken land as yet another water firm's announced a hosepipe ban. Wessex Water has become the latest utility company to announce that ban after weeks of hot and dry weather. Britain is set for more cool and changeable weather this week, with rain and thunderstorms possible in parts of the country. But despite those wetter conditions, experts say the rain's unlikely to be significant enough to ease the recent drought conditions. Those are the 4 o'clock headlines for you. More news shortly. Now a look at the markets.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you very much indeed, Sam. Now, Reform UK today has announced plans to ban foreign nationals from claiming almost all types of benefits if the party wins power.
The British taxpayer is acting as the welfare state for the world. That's unfair. We all know it. There are 6.6 million working-age people in the UK claiming out-of-work benefits. Among their number are many who can work, who should work, but have chosen not to.
Well, the proposal is part of a wider plan to cut more than £50 billion a year from Britain's ballooning welfare bill. Reform UK says restricting benefit access for foreign nationals could save around £21 billion every single year. And that is coming forward as of the next 5 years, I think. I'm joined in the studio by GB News' chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster, who was at the press conference today and asked the first, and as ever, best question. Catherine, let's start with the top line, £21 billion per year annually. But of course, this could mean we're back to the Brexit wars, because that would mean renegotiating the withdrawal agreement. Reform UK today certainly put the cat amongst the pigeons.
Yes, so Reform have said that they would ban benefits to all foreign nationals, including those with EU settled status here from the European Union, which was part of the Brexit deal. Now, that, of course, would be massively controversial because we've got that agreement. That would mean going back to the EU and trying to change the deal. I put it to Richard Tice and Robert Jenrick, who are making the announcement. Did the British public really want to go there again, given how the Tories were elected in 2019 promising to get Brexit done, because we were just in this sort of seventh circle of hell going round and round and round, weren't we? Anyway, they insist that they would get a good deal. I mean, I think we've heard that before. We've seen the EU play very hardball, no matter really who's in charge. But also, that's only one part of this, because a lot of it is a big crackdown on PIP, that's personal independence payment. Claims for that have doubled over the last 10 years. And Robert Jenrick has basically said that Reform will get rid of it. They'll bring in something called health security allowance instead. They said that they will halve the cost and you will only get these payments if you're really seriously in need, and that most mental health conditions will not qualify. Now, we know that Labour couldn't manage to cut £5 billion off welfare. Their own MPs simply wouldn't have it. They are conducting a couple of reviews. Stephen Timms, who's doing one of them, has already said that PIP is not fit for purpose, but it is not easy taking money away from people. And also, it could be quite tricky for Reform because a lot of their strongholds around the country are places where people are quite deprived. Often they've got long-term health problems and quite large numbers of people getting PIP at the moment. So Robert Jenrick, for example, got his seat in Newark, majority of 3,500, of course, as a Conservative in 2024. Well, there's 6,000 people claiming PIP in Newark. On these projections, a whole lot of those are going to lose a lot of money. So it's very easy to give these figures, but actually implementing this, I think, is going to be very hard. One other thing, they're saying long-term unemployed, if you've been unemployed over 12 months, you would have to do 20 hours of voluntary work within your community every week, or you would face sanctions.
Superb stuff. Thank you very much, Catherine. Let's get my next guest now. I'm delighted to be joined by Reform UK's chairman and the MP for Ashfield, Lee Anderson. Lee, welcome to the show. A pleasure, as always, to have your company. Your plan today has been steamed into by both the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, saying that you'll reopen the Brexit battle. Is that where we're going to go? We're going back to war with Brussels?
I think it's a bit rich coming from those two parties. And by the way, I just need to correct Catherine on something. She said it 2 or 3 times today on GB News that we're getting rid of PIP, we're abandoning PIP. We are not abandoning PIP. We are reforming the way that PIP is paid to people. And to make comments like lots and lots of people in Rob Jenrick's are going to lose the benefit, again, that is nonsense. No, it's not. All we're doing is making the system much fairer. We're looking at weeding out the people that should not be on PIP. You know, we've got people in this country, for example, Martin, on PIP for acne, for tennis elbow, for constipation and stuff like that. I mean, this really gets the goat of the hard-working taxpayer in Ashfield. And the people with the serious conditions, the genuine claimants, have got nothing to fear. They won't be reassessed, you know, for over 3 years. So, and that's a normal sort of period anyway, so got nothing to worry about. And I think one of the great things that Rob's announced today is the fact that people that are on long-term job seekers allowance over 12 months, they should be earning that money. It shouldn't be a gift from the taxpayer. They need to be out doing jobs in the community, voluntary work, helping the local councils, the local community, getting used to getting up in the morning, actually listening to an alarm clock go off in the morning like the rest of us do, you know, every single day when we go to work. So I think this is a much fairer system. And my goodness, we've got 1.3 million people, foreigners in this country, claiming universal credit. Can you name a country in the world, Martin, where 1.3 million British people are claiming a universal credit type benefit in another country? No, you can't. We're a soft touch. We've been a cash machine for the whole world, and it's got to stop. And that money has got to go back in the pockets of British workers.
This will mean there are around about 750,000 citizens from the European Union who claim some kind of benefit, well, universal credit actually, in the UK. 57% of them are employed, so they're in-work benefits. 43% are unemployed. Now, if you kick 750,000 European Union citizens off benefits, it could mean 30,000 Brits, significantly smaller amounts, I admit, but 30,000 Brits living in Europe could lose their entitlement. So what would Reform UK do about those Brits? Would you bail them out?
Well, I would say that we will. We've got a contingency fund of about £500 million anyway, which can be paid for out of the savings. But you know what I would say to that is, yeah, there might be 30,000 Brits in the EU, and I don't know what the exact figure is of foreign EU nationals in this country. I think you just quoted it there, Martin. But this is going to come to a negotiation between us and, you know, if we are in government, and the EU. And you know, like Ticey said earlier today, by the time we get into government, this agreement will be 10 years old. It's time to sit down and have a sensible conversation, like grown-ups, like adults, and renegotiate.
Let's talk about the Brexit deal, because a lot of people, I know you yourself wanted a harder Brexit deal. A lot of people said at the time a clean break Brexit was the best deal. We didn't get that. We found out today that we're on the hook for 750,000 people paying benefits if they were born on the continent. That might have come as a shock to people. But what about fishing? What about other things? Is it time to sit down with Brussels again and show them who's the boss?
I think it is, and this has been the problem, Martin. And you campaigned heavily for Brexit, as I did as well. This has been the problem since we left the EU, and we're not really. We didn't get the Brexit we wanted. Obviously, I wanted a much harder Brexit, but we need politicians in that place, opposite to you, with a real backbone that's going to put the interests of the British people first. And we haven't had that. We didn't have it with the Tories. We didn't have it with Theresa May. We didn't have it with Boris, really. And we certainly not got it with, we didn't have it with Keir Starmer, and we won't get it with Andy Burnham. You know, I keep saying this time and time again, Martin, that place that I work at is totally out of touch with the rest of the country. About time they did their job and represented the British public and you know, just grow a backbone, grow a pair.
OK, Lee Anderson, we'll have to leave her on that bombshell. It's always a pleasure to have your company. Reform UK Chairman, MP for Ashfield, Lee Anderson, thank you very much indeed for your time. Now, join me on the show now. I'm delighted to join my next guest, Labour commentator Aisha Ali Khan. Aisha, it's always a pleasure to have your esteemed company. What do you make of Reform UK's announcement today? I mean, let's be frank, a lot of people in Britain, irrespective of how they vote, do think that our handouts culture is simply out of control, it's unaffordable, and it has to be tethered down. What do you make today of Reform UK's announcement?
Hi, Martin. Thank you for having me back. I want to pick up a comment that Lee just made. He said something like, if Reform are in government, and that is a massive statement, because you could say whatever you want. You can make all the plans in the world. We're going to announce this, we're going to announce that, but nothing is going to happen until you are elected. And obviously we have seen in the recent sort of, the election campaign in Clacton, Nigel Farage's £5 million payment. We've seen all of this, and what we're noticing is that Reform is just they're sinking in the polls, first of all, and they're making all these comments. But actually, if we were to dissect some of the claims now, some of the plans that they have for the benefit system, again, the most vulnerable are going to be affected. 1.3 million people live in the UK that don't hold citizenship, but they're on track to actually become citizens. So they're either on the 5-year track, they're on the 3-year track. And a lot of these citizens are obviously EU citizens who'd been in the UK, either they were going to either for 5 years or more, or on track to be here for 5 years. So they have either settled status or pre-settled status, and they're kind of in between. So yes, they are foreign nationals. Yes, they have different nationalities, but they're on track to become British citizens. So these are the people that actually will be able to contribute to the community, to the economy, to the local communities, by when they eventually become British nationals. And these are the people that are going to be targeted, that are being targeted by Reform policies. So it just doesn't make sense, in my opinion. But also going back to trying to save money, Lee just mentioned people with acne, people with tennis elbow claiming PIP. Actually, the PIP process is one of the hardest process, Martin. I've helped lots of people apply for benefits. Nearly everyone gets rejected. They have to appeal. It takes months. It's not something that happens overnight. It's not the easiest of processes.
Right,
so to make that even harder, it's just really unfair on vulnerable people.
See, the problem in a nutshell is there. The Labour Party, that our benefits bill is out of control. Like, everybody knows that we cannot just watch benefits balloon and balloon and balloon. It's going to be £40 billion a year by the end of the decade. That's a country heading for bankruptcy, Aisha. And yet every single time a plan comes out to cut the benefits bill, the Labour Party go, oh, that'd be cruel, that'd be harsh, that's not the kind of country that we are. Labour Party backbenchers won't even allow their own cuts to go through. And the problem with trying to keep everybody happy all over the place, Aisha Ali Khan, is a recipe for bankrupting the nation.
What are the alternatives? Some of the people that are claiming, obviously, we've had a lot of issues around mental health because of the lockdown. So obviously, I teach in schools, I work with vulnerable young people, and many of them have got recent diagnosis. They've been waiting for years. And obviously, once they're diagnosed with certain conditions, they are entitled to to apply for benefits and claim benefits, a lot of the benefits that are being paid out are for people who've been on long-term, have long-term medical needs, disabilities and so on. Once you start slashing, where do you stop, basically?
But Aisha, PIP benefits have more than doubled in just a few years. Are you seriously saying Britain is twice as sick as it was a few years ago, or might people be taking the mickey?
Martin, a lot of these claims have come through. There was huge backlogs in place, and now many of them have been resolved. So of course you're going to see a massive uptick in people claiming. Also, a lot of the illnesses and so on, people were not probably aware that they were ill, or maybe they've got certain conditions that they were basically going through the process of being diagnosed with. So it does take time. For example, one person who I helped basically was the diagnosis was a long-term illness, but she'd just been feeling unwell for years and years, and she hadn't claimed a single penny until it became really, really untenable, and she had to claim. So there are lots of people out there that actually are entitled to benefits, but they haven't claimed. But obviously, Martin, we can't just say, okay, well, we're not going to give you this help and we're going to give people. Where do you draw the line? How do you quantify which people are deserving and which people aren't? And my concern is, Martin,
face-to-face interviews, rigorous testing, rather than just filling things out online. You know, actually making sure the neediest get it and the Mickey takers don't. I mean, we've got to start somewhere, Aisha Anikon. Yeah. Otherwise, the country's just going to be bankrupt. I mean, seriously.
No, I agree. We need to target, we need to make sure that the people that are deserving get the benefit, and those who are taking the mick with the system. And of course, we've seen this recent rise in people mocking the system, making all these TikTok videos and joking and saying, look how easy it is to claim benefits. That is not the case.
You
and they do this for content.
You admit there's widespread fraud. You admit people are gaming the system.
There are some people, not widespread, Martin. There are some people who have taken advantage of the system. And again, these people are undeserving, and the help that they're getting should be withdrawn completely and given to people who are deserving.
OK, Aisha, we have to leave it there. I appreciate your company as ever. Aisha Anikon, thank you for your time today on the show. And thank you to you, Catherine Forster. Always ask the best questions in the business. Thank you. Still to come, the Metropolitan Police have claimed success over their much scrutinised and criticised stop and search policy after more than 1/3 of their searches resulted in police officers finding weapons, drugs or other evidence of offending. If stop and search is so clearly working, why is it always criticised? And also next, fury has erupted after it's emerged today that Henry Novak's killer, Vikram Digwa, is enjoying Zoom calls with his mother, of course. Kiran Kaur, also jailed for concealing the murder weapon that killed Henry Novak. Should killers really be enjoying such perks while they're in prison? That's next here on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel. At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Britain is not just a geographical expression,
We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo, every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome back. Got some breaking news for you now, and it's this at 7 p.m. this evening on GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. We will reveal our exclusive investigation that exposes how local authorities are recommending an asylum toolkit for illegal migrants, NGO charities that was created by a pro-open borders charity. Yes, that's right. That very charity stated at its very own mission that it is fighting for a world in which no one is illegal. Tonight we'll reveal who is recommending the services, what the toolkit includes, such as Afghan, Somali and Arabic services, and the radical left-wing ideology underpinning all of it. An NGO bombshell, only here exclusively on GB News Tonight with me from 7 p.m. Don't sure to miss it. Moving on, the killer of Henry Novak is reportedly being allowed prison-to-prison video calls with his mother, who, of course, is also behind bars for hiding the murder weapon. New reports reveal that the pair will be allowed to communicate by video while serving their sentences in different jails. Is that really fair when the Novaks will never get to speak or see their son ever again? Well, let's now get the opinion with the lawyer, James Tunbridge. James, a pleasure to have your company. Thanks for joining me today on GB News. Many people will feel outraged when they read this story today. Henry Novak is dead. Vikram Digwer is in prison, but he gets to speak to his mum on a Zoom call. Prison staff are furious. This is going on. You can only wonder how the Novaks themselves feel. Should people like Digram, killers, really be enjoying such perks?
Well, it's a great question. I think there's two steps to it, though, because we've actually had guidance going all the way back to 2019 about the importance of prisoners having access to family. And the real reason behind this is to help deal with reoffending and so on. So there's a whole load of policies. Now, they've also had scenarios where sometimes family is actually in another prison. And in fact, in some cases, they'll arrange actual physical visits. But if that's not possible, and in this case, you've got prisons at opposite ends of the country, presumably that is why they're talking about video links, because there's guidance which the Prison Reform Trust puts forward for governors of prisons to make this decision. So two steps. First of all, why is any of it on the table? Well, it's on the table for a better, bigger reason about trying to stop reoffending. Should it happen for this individual, there's clear decision being taken. I don't know why they've made that decision, but the complaint, if there is one, should be about why they're doing this and is he someone that really deserves it?
It just kind of exhumes this entire conversation about the human rights of prisoners. Now, no one's saying that people should be, strung up in cells like we're back in medieval times, but perks in prison is a constant bugbear for those on the outside world, particularly in high-profile cases like this. A pathological liar who denied that there was any wrongdoing on his behalf, delayed the emergency services getting to the scene as Henry Novak was bleeding on the pavement, whereas his murderer, Vikram Digwer, was believed. His mother was called, came to the scene, took the murder weapon away, put it at home with a collection of other Sikh swords and weapons. It's a brutal case. It's a very, very decisive case, and it just surely warrants a special circumstance where he shouldn't be enjoying these kind of perks. It rubs the salt in the wound for the Novaks.
That's a perfectly understandable position. I don't know whether or not I would really call it a perk necessarily, because you're talking about visitation. Visitation is well accepted and happens. Whether or not it should happen in this instance, there is a choice to be made, and it's the governors of the two prisons that will have decided whether they should happen. And to your point, is that right? Well, if there's some discretion here, maybe people should be asking, well, what's the basis? Why is this particular pair of prisoners being given that right?
Yeah, because, you know, on your screens there, you can see Digwa's mother, you know, Kiran Kaur. She took the weapon away. She concealed it at home. She needed an interpreter in court, despite being here for many, many years. The story asks many, many questions about integration, being an accomplice. And it's just such a raw case. And, you know, it just doesn't feel fair.
Well, I would imagine that, I mean, what we're starting to move towards there is what is the right punishment, what is fair. And I think there's perfectly legitimate conversations I've had with some of your colleagues about sentencing much more broadly. And are we getting it right? Are the right people locked up? Are people happy with the way our justice system works? Because the moment people don't feel that the justice system works for them, we see people taking it into their own hands. That's not good for society. That's why we have a system to protect us all and get the balance right. And perhaps here, they're just getting it wrong.
Well, many, many people do believe they are getting it very, very wrong indeed. But look, thanks for your time today. Appreciate your time. That's the lawyer, James Tunbridge. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We've got a comment here from the prison service who told GB News this. This prisoner is being managed within the prison estate in line with the severity of the heinous offences for which he was convicted. But look, many, many people are going to believe that this is proof that you get a soft soap on the inside of prison, and those who are left to serve their life sentence on the outside. You know, Henry Novak will never come back. His family will never see him ever again on a Zoom call, hear his voice, get a Christmas card, any special occasions. His killer is cozying up to his mum on a Zoom chat. Just doesn't feel right. Still to come also. The Metropolitan Police have now claimed success over their much scrutinised and criticised allegedly racist stop and search policy after more than 1/3 of their searches year on year resulted in police officers finding weapons, drugs or other evidence of offending. We'll be asking if it's so effective, why is it so criticised? But first it's time for your latest news headlines, and here's Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you. Good afternoon to you. 4:30 the headlines. Robert Jenrick has vowed to end the foreign welfare rip-off, he says, adding that Reform UK will restore fairness to the system. It comes as the parties unveil plans today to strip foreign nationals of their right to claim almost all benefits in Britain under a Reform UK government. The party says the move could save around £21 billion a year. It's emerged that Andy Burnham exchanged messages with someone impersonating Donald Trump's chief of staff. The Prime Minister was in contact with an unknown individual pretending to be top White House aide Susie Wiles before concerns were raised about the incident. Here, the government's facing calls to publish the criteria for issuing emergency alerts after criticism that the national wildfire warning was unnecessary. Head of the Cabinet Office, Louise Hay, is understood to have signed off on the nationwide alert, which warned that barbecues and fireworks could start wildfires. And friends, family and fans of Bonnie Tyler have been gathering today in Swansea for the Welsh singer's funeral. The total eclipse of the Heart star died in July at the age of 75. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you for the news at 5.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Cloud thickening during the rest of today from the north, and it's in the north where it will become increasingly wet. Light showers will affect the south overnight, but no substantial rain expected to relieve the situation, at least for the next few days. We've actually seen some sunshine during the day so far across Wales and the southwest, but the cloud does fill in for many places overnight. The heaviest rain moves through Scotland, pushing into Orkney by midnight, and it swings across northern parts of England, North Wales and so on before it turns more showery at the end of the night. Cloudy skies, a mild night for many, temperatures staying in the teens. Then a grey and damp start for much of the UK first thing Tuesday. The most persistent rain still lingering across the far north and northeast of Scotland. Meanwhile, it's more of a showery picture for western Scotland. Drier and clearer to the east. Northern Ireland seeing plenty of showers first thing, not particularly heavy. They'll be moving through reasonably quickly as well. Much of northern and western England as well as central parts, and for Wales, thick cloud giving some light showers, but again, nothing substantial expected at the moment. Those showers will continue through the morning, and then as the afternoon approaches, in the south the cloud will lift and break, sunny spells emerge. Another day in which it will feel humid, but it's still going to be a little cooler compared with recent days. And for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, a lot of thick cloud, frequent showers, if not longer spells of rain for some. Largely avoiding Shetland, however, where it will be cool, 13 Celsius. In the south, 25, 26 Celsius, more likely, given the thinning of the cloud and sunshine coming through. Some clear spells in the far south for a time into the evening. And then we've got this system, areas of rain moving into the south. And actually, the picture from Wednesday onwards is of a more unsettled outlook with frequent showers for many.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M27 westbound is closed between junctions 10 and 9 at Whiteley. The M25 clockwise is affected by a collision between junctions 13 and 14 at Staines. The M20 is closed between junctions 7 and 9 at Bearsted. The M5 northbound is affected by a collision at junction 12 in Quedgley. In Scotland, the A9 is closed in both directions at Dunkeld. Across Wales, the M4 westbound from J24 Coldra to J26 Malpas is congested with possible delays. And on the trains, Greater Anglia services are facing major disruption between Shenfield and Southend Victoria. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Time is 4:38 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the Metropolitan Police say that Stop and Search is working better than ever before. New figures released today show that 36% of Met Stop and Searchers last month found weapons, drugs or other evidence of offending. Now, over the last year, around 3,800 weapons were seized, while illegal drugs were found more than 27,800 times. Well, I'm delighted now to be joined by my guest. That's the former Detective Chief Inspector at the Metropolitan Police, David McKelvin, of course, the founder of My Local Bobby. Dave, always a pleasure to have your company. Stop and Search has been something of a political lightning rod over the years. Recall how in 2013, the then candidate for the Mayor of London, a certain Sadiq Khan, before he became Sir Sadiq Khan, said it was racist. And he said he would stop it if he were elected. Well, it was cut back. And let's be frank, the bodies piled up. Stop and Search is effective, Dave. This data proves it. So why are politicians so against it?
It's just politics, Martin. You know, the reality of this is, as you've seen here, Stop and Search is working, has always worked, and it's just politics. It's people playing silly games, and they're playing games with people's lives because, you know, of the 3,800 knives that were recovered last year, you just needed one of them to stab someone and they'd be dead. You know, you've seen the homicide rate going up. So this is really good news, and it proves the point. Stop and Search works. Simple as that.
You know, Dave, profiling of offenders in areas with known criminality is just something that's called good intelligence. Good intelligence leads to good detection. Yep. Good detection leads to crime solving. I don't need to tell you that. Now, you're a former chief inspector. So, why is it then that there is such this resistance to something that clearly works? Well, if you recall, back in Glasgow and back in Liverpool, when they also had targeted stop and search, it clamped down on knife gangs. It clamped down on crimes. But when the people being targeted there were white working class lads, no one seemed to care.
No, the reality is that this is preventative policing. This is old-fashioned, broken windows, preventative policing, getting out there, getting your hands in people's pockets, and taking those knives, guns, drugs off the streets before they're used in crimes. It's simple, it works. Unfortunately, policing moved away from proactive policing to a more reactive means of dealing with policing. And the result was you saw crime go up, you see convictions go down. This is really simple. Stop and search works, arresting people works, convicting people, prosecuting and convicting people works. It's nothing new in any of this. This is just old-fashioned, simple, old-fashioned policing, and it works.
Dave, when you look specifically that almost 4,000 weapons were seized through stop and search last year alone, as you say, 3,800 weapons that were taken off the streets. That could be 3,800 lives that have been saved. Let's be brutally frank. And when you drill in, Dave, to the uncomfortable truths, of the 21 people who were killed in homicide victims in London, 14 out of 21 of them were black. Black men under the age of 25 are 9 times more likely to be murdered than white guys. And when we look continually at those who are stopped and searched, the people most likely to carry knives and to kill with knives are black. Now, Dave, I don't care if people think that's racist. It's the truth. And we need to be truthful when we apply stop and search. There's no kindness in allowing people to die in case you're afraid of being called racist.
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on, Martin. Unless you've blown your last breath into some kid who's on the floor who's been stabbed to death, please don't tell me how to do my job. The reality of this is it's young black kids killing young black kids in certain areas. And the only way to stop that is to be proactive and stop and search, arresting the right people, and making sure those people go to prison, convicting them and stopping this, at the earliest opportunity there is. It's the only thing that works. There's no point, coming back and investigating the murder after it's happened. There's so many unsolved murders at the moment, but by moving forwards like this, the Met have finally learned their lesson. We don't know the actual figures for the number of arrests from these stop and search, but it's working. It proves, the data proves that this works.
And just to reiterate, when there was a clampdown in Glasgow, when there was a clampdown in Liverpool, the violence reduction units there, it worked through targeted profiling of known offenders on known estates from known gangs. They just happened to be white. Nobody complained about that then. And as you say, this is working. The Assistant Commissioner of the Police said stop and search remains a vital tool. So, Dave, a message to the politicians out there who are meddling and stopping coppers doing their jobs.
Absolutely. Yeah, let the professionals get on and do their jobs. It's as simple as that. We've got the carnival coming up this weekend. Historically, there's been, serious violence, stabbings, murders. There needs to be proactive policing. That means that quite often before Carnival, they'll go out and arrest the right people, the gang members, and take them off the streets in advance of Notting Hill. That's preventative policing. That's what policing should be about. It's about that old-fashioned, broken windows, preventative policing style that needs to come back in. It needs to be undertaken, across the UK.
So, Dave McElwee, final word from you. If anyone's out there watching the show going, we need to cut down stop and search, it's damaging community relationships, you're saying, be quiet. We need more of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It works. And it's saving lives. That's the point. The point here is it's saving lives. The data shows it. It's nonsensical to say otherwise.
And Dave, just quickly, in terms of how a stop and search occurs, 3,800 weapons being found. What kind of weapons are being taken off people on streets now?
Well, they're going to be knives, they're going to be guns, you know, it could be jiffy with acid in them. You know, they're going to be weapons predominantly, you know, used by gangs and gangsters, you know, to commit crimes. You need to put the fear back into the criminal. You know, they need to think about, before they go out, if they're carrying a knife, the fear needs to be that they are going to get stopped and searched and they're going to get arrested. It needs, you know, that's the point. The fear needs to be put back in towards the criminals that are out there on the streets.
Because soft-soaping criminals just allows them to be more criminal, and it all has to stop somewhere. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. As ever, appreciate your time there. The former Detective Chief Inspector at the Metropolitan Police and the founder of My Local Bobby, Dave McGilby. Thank you very much indeed. Now, don't go anywhere, because coming up next, the Housing Secretary, Angela Rayner, Labour Party, is to give pubs extra protections to prevent them from being turned into homes and offices under new planning rules. But here's a big question. Is this really enough to help save the great British boozer? That's next. But meanwhile, if in search of some holiday sun, then here is a forecast for some of your top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. Apart from the odd isolated thunderstorm, most of the Mediterranean will see plenty of dry, hot and sunny weather over the next few days. A bit of a breeze though for Madeira, perhaps bringing the odd shower here on Tuesday. Otherwise, Spain and Portugal, cloudless skies, lots of sunshine here. Perhaps the odd afternoon and evening thunderstorm across the spine of Italy, parts of the Balkans and Greece and Turkey, but these mostly inland, coastal regions remaining generally dry, sunny and hot. And the outlook is for temperatures to remain in the low to mid-30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Morris, tell us exactly what is going to happen here this evening.
So what we have this evening as part of the wider FLAD Coming to Belfast programme is essentially 2 hours of Northern Irish Unionist Ulster Scots culture, dance, tradition and music. So we'll have got about a cast of 200, and like you said, we're covering flute bands, traditional fife and drum with lambeg drums. We've got a piper in there as well, a couple of Highland dance groups. We've just seen one rehearse. They are absolutely fantastic, and some drum music from County Armagh as well. So it's 2 hours to do an absolute broad brush off the entire culture, and whenever you're trying to piece a show like that together, 2 hours just isn't enough.
Of course, you yourself spent a lot of time as a drum major outside this, didn't you? I mean, you served.
Yes, I did. I spent 23 years in the household division. I originally joined the Irish Guards, transferred to the Scots Guards.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Former NBA player Royce White says he's declaring for next year's women's NBA draft, claiming he now identifies as a female for the purpose of playing professional basketball. There he is on your screens. He's 6'8", he's massive, he's built like a brick, you know what. He's the former first-round pick in the NBA, which if you're not familiar with what the NBA is in the draft, basically when he was playing, he was all the NBA team's first choice for them to join his team. He was a quality player. He says he'd be unstoppable in the women's NBA and has vowed to use the women's changing room if allowed to compete. White, who is seeking the Republican Senate nomination in Minnesota, says he wants to expose what he sees as flaws in transgender inclusion rules in women's sport. And it all comes after former NBA star Enes Kanter, Freedom, also announced plans to declare for the 2027 women's NBA draft as well.
The People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Fury over a royal funeral planned for shamed Andrew. Should he get a royal funeral?
Emphatically not. He is a private citizen. He lost his HRH title of prince and also stepped down from numerous patronages. He's being, of course, as we all know, investigated by the police. The facts of the matter are that he is in disgrace. As a private citizen, he should most emphatically not get a royal ceremonial funeral. This is a matter for the Cabinet Office of the Royal Household. I can only presume that it's something that they haven't attended too, because there would be public outrage. The last YouGov poll last month, his popularity is 2%. You can't get worse than that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 5. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the Labour Party say they've got good news today for fans of the Great British Boozer, and they'll be given extra protection from being closed as part of changes to government planning rules in England. An incredible 161 pubs closed in the first 3 months of this year across England, Scotland and Wales. Will this be enough to save the Great British Boozer? Well, I'm delighted now to be joined by Mark Bridgen, who of course is the landlord of the Dog at Wingham in Kent. Mark, always a pleasure to have your company. We've spoken many times on this show about the Great British Boozer and how it's feeling the pinch. Has Angela Rayner thrown you a lifeline today?
More drivel. It's just I can't actually believe it. You know, landlords aren't closing their pubs because they want to turn them into flats and offices. Landlords are having to close their pubs because it's nearly impossible to be a pub today in Britain. You know, we had the business rates cut by Mr. Burnham, which was just another. They're just headline grabbing. They're not policies that are going to help pubs survive. You know, the campaign's out there. That's the problem. That's what's going to save pubs. And I've said it before, you know, with you and your colleagues. If the government want to make it so that my pub can't survive, then the very least they should do is make it easy for me to get planning to turn it into flats, because it can't work as a pub at the moment.
So they're preventing you from changing the usage, but in actual fact, you and many, many other landlords, hundreds and thousands of landlords, just want to be able to make a profit easier. So things like national insurance hikes did you in. Things like minimum wage hikes did you in. Energy prices have done you in. Every supply side cost is doing you in. So the fact that you're all sitting there, you know, waiting to turn into a bunch of flats is for the birds.
Yeah, it's just, you know, this is making it more difficult for developers. Is not helping pub landlords. It's just a farce. It's another, you know, headline grabbing by Burnham and Rayner and the whole party. That's not the problem. I've not got developers banging on my door to make me rich to turn this into flats. What I have is a really, really challenging business to run because of all the things you just said. And let's not forget that actually business rates went up this year, and the decrease we're getting isn't till April, and it's just a pittance in the scheme of things. You know, there's lots of challenges that we're facing. You know, obviously the economy doesn't help. You know, the public have got less money in their pockets, but as I've said to you many times, we are relatively busy. You know, trade isn't terrible. What's the problem is all of the costs, the fact that there's no margin in what we do. If they want to save pubs, then decrease the VAT in line with the rest of Europe to around 10%, and you will see pubs, well, you'll be giving them a chance, and, you know, we will start to thrive again, and we will employ more local people. We will give them then a hand with youth unemployment problems. You know, changing planning rules is about a million miles away from the real problems facing hospitality.
OK, we have to leave it there. Common sense there, never catch on. Mark Bridgen there, the governor at the Dog at Wingham in Kent's top boozer. Get along and support him. Thank you very much indeed. Now, coming up, more reaction to Reform UK's plan today to stop all benefits for foreigners. Is it fair? Will it work? And could it reopen the almighty Brexit wars? Because there's 750,000 from Europe claiming benefits in Britain. That's next here on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Cloud thickening during the rest of today from the north, and it's in the north where it will become increasingly wet. Light showers will affect the south overnight, but no substantial rain expected to relieve the situation, at least for the next few days. We've actually seen some sunshine during the day so far across Wales and the southwest, but the cloud does fill in for many places overnight. The heaviest rain moves through Scotland, pushing into Orkney by midnight, and it swings across northern parts of England, North Wales and so on before it turns more showery at the end of the night. Cloudy skies, a mild night for many, temperatures staying in the teens. Then a grey and damp start for much of the UK first thing Tuesday. The most persistent rain still lingering across the far north and northeast of Scotland. Meanwhile, it's more of a showery picture for western Scotland. Drier and clearer to the east. Northern Ireland seeing plenty of showers first thing, not particularly heavy. They'll be moving through reasonably quickly as well. Much of northern and western England as well as central parts, and for Wales, thick cloud giving some light showers, but again, nothing substantial expected at the moment. Those showers will continue through the morning, and then as the afternoon approaches, in the south the cloud will lift and break, sunny spells emerge. Another day in which it will feel humid, but it's still going to be a little cooler compared with recent days. And for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, a lot of thick cloud, frequent showers, if not longer spells of rain for some. Largely avoiding Shetland, however, where it will be cool, 13 Celsius. In the south, 25, 26 Celsius, more likely, given the thinning of the cloud and sunshine coming through. Some clear spells in the far south for a time into the evening. And then we've got this system, areas of rain moving into the south. And actually, the picture from Wednesday onwards is of a more unsettled outlook with frequent showers for many.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A31 is closed at Junction 2 in Ringwood. The M27 is closed at Junction 2 in Romsey due to fire. The M20 is closed between Junctions 7 and 9 in Bearsted. The M25 anti-clockwise is affected by a collision between Junctions 24 and 23 near South Mimms. The M11 southbound has an incident at Junction 14 in Girton. In Scotland, the A9 is closed in both directions at Dunkeld. Across Wales, the A44 from Aberystwyth to Lambadarn 4 is closed. And on the trains, Greater Anglia services have major disruption between Shenfield and Southend Victoria. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win over £65,000 in prizes. You could be our latest Great British Giveaway winner. First of all, we want to give you £60,000 in tax-free cash. Plus, you'll also receive a fine gold bar worth over £5,000.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo, every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you and a happy Monday. It's 5 p.m. on this beautiful afternoon. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you, Lloydie, as ever, until 6. A cracking show awaits, and here's what's on today's show. Top story this afternoon. This morning, Reform UK pledged to stop all benefits for foreigners.
The British taxpayer is acting as the welfare state for the world. That's unfair. We all know it.
Now, Reform UK claim the scheme will save British taxpayers £21 billion per year within 5 years. But both the Labour Party and the Conservatives have piled in, saying scrapping benefits for European Union citizens will drag Britain back into the Brexit negotiations. Today's question is simple. Should charity begin at home, and should benefits be denied to immigrants? And fury has erupted after it's emerged that Henry Novak's killer, Vikram Digwa, is enjoying Zoom calls with his mother, Kiran Kaur, also jailed for concealing Henry Novak's murder weapon. Should killers enjoy such perks when the Novaks will never get to see their precious son ever again? And the Metropolitan Police have today claimed success at their much scrutinised and criticised and so-called racist stop-and-search policy after more than one-third of all searches resulted in the police officers finding weapons, finding drugs or other evidence of offending. And that's the highest find rate ever recorded by the police force. So, despite such huge success today, I'm asking, why on earth does it get so much criticism? And Britain is preparing to release criminals early, but meanwhile, hundreds of cells sit empty inside a brand new £400 million super prison. A super problem for our super prisons. We'll find out what on earth is going on. And meanwhile, the share of people who claim they are proud to be British has plummeted in the past 15 years, with young people in particular saying they're less proud of our history and older people losing faith in institutions like the BBC, Parliament and the monarchy. I'll ask a huge question. Why is patriotism plummeting, and what on earth can be done to turn it around? And that's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Do you feel proud to be British? Or more to the point, do you feel proud about what our country has become within the last 10 years? Astonishing data I'll share with you this hour shows that British faith in the flag, in the monarchy, particularly in the BBC, in Parliament and our legal system is through the floor. Why? When I was in Nottingham on Saturday night, I was met so many patriots who say they're falling out of love with the country they feel is changing beyond recognition. Meanwhile, young people being taught that Britain is institutionally and historically racist. Throw on top of that uncontrolled immigration, and we see a declining faith in Britain. Can Britain be saved? Can that rot be stopped? Get in touch. gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so, or scan the QR code on your screens now. But now it's time for your headlines, and here's Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you, and good evening to you. Just after 5 o'clock, the top story tonight. Reform UK says that foreign nationals should be banned from claiming almost all benefits in Britain. That ban would cover housing benefit, child benefit, free childcare, disability benefits and other welfare payments. But it would also include EU nationals with settled status, meaning Reform would have to renegotiate parts of the Brexit deal with Brussels. The parties also said long-term benefit claimants who are fit to work would have to do 20 hours a week of community service or face sanctions. Well, Robert Jenrick, the party spokesman, said that the plan would end what he calls the foreign welfare rip-off and save around £21 billion each and every year.
The British taxpayer is acting as the welfare state for the world. That's unfair. We all know it. There are 6.6 million working-age people in the UK claiming out-of-work benefits. Among their number are many who can work, who should work, but have chosen not to.
It's emerged today that Andy Burnham exchanged messages with someone pretending to be Donald Trump's chief of staff. The Prime Minister was contacted by an unknown person posing as senior White House aide Susie Wiles. Sources say only a few messages were exchanged, no significant information was shared, and the suspicious contact was quickly reported. Downing Street says it does not comment on national security matters, while the White House says the incident had nothing to do with earlier reports of Ms Wiles' phone being hacked. Here, the government has defended its decision to send a wildfire warning to millions of phones, saying the emergency alert was entirely appropriate. That message went out on Friday night, warning people not to use disposable barbecues, naked flames or fireworks. Downing Street says it was sent after a direct request from fire crews, with 43 fires and 11 major incidents stretching national resources to the limit. But domestic abuse charities say the lack of warning may have put survivors at risk because some rely on hidden second phones to contact support services and escape their abusers. Well, earlier the Labour Minister Matthew Pennycook told us that the government stands by its decision and urged the public to take the alert seriously.
We're telling people to not start open fires, to be very careful about how they dispose of cigarettes. That's absolutely right. And if that alert prevented the loss of one home, if it helped keep people safe, I think it was worth it. But of course, as I say, we've got to use those emergency alerts judiciously and sparingly. But I think it was entirely appropriate to issue them following the request of the fire and rescue services to do so.
Next, news from the US this evening that Donald Trump has reportedly threatened to bomb Oman as a US ally if it gets in the way, he says, of America's talks with Iran. US media says the president made the comment during a phone call as Washington tries to secure the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Mr Trump also claimed the US has a direct back channel with Iran's Revolutionary Guards, but the group denies any such talks are taking place. Iranian officials say they are close to finalising a separate deal with Oman on shipping routes through the strait after months of disruption to what is one of the world's most important energy routes. In Wales, fans have lined the streets to say goodbye to Bonnie Tyler, the global superstar many still knew simply as Gaynor from Skewen. The singer, whose real name was Gaynor Hopkins, died unexpectedly last month at the age of 75. At a celebration of life in Swansea, mourners remembered her as one of a kind, a star, they say, who sold records around the world but never forgot where she came from. Her manager said she was always a star but never a diva, while fans shouted, "We love you, Bonnie," as her funeral procession departed. And after days of extreme heat, Britain is set to cool down, thankfully, but the change in weather could bring a fresh risk of flooding now. Heavy rain and thunderstorms are expected in parts of the country this week, falling on ground left baked hard by weeks of hot, dry weather. Wessex Water has now become the latest supplier to announce a hosepipe ban, but despite the weather forecast, experts say that the rain's unlikely to be enough to properly ease drought conditions, and another heatwave could still arrive in September. Those are this evening's headlines for you. More news in half an hour. Next, though, one last look at today's markets.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
8 minutes past 5. Tonight's markets for you. The pound will buy $1.3561 and €1.1693. The price of gold, £3,235 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 10,740 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Thank you, Sam. Now to our top story this afternoon. Reform UK today has announced plans to ban all foreign nationals from claiming almost all types of benefits if the party wins power.
The British taxpayer is acting as the welfare state for the world. That's unfair. We all know it. There are 6.6 million working-age people in the UK claiming work benefits. Among their number are many who can work, who should work, but have chosen not to.
Well, it certainly put the cat among the pigeons. The proposal is part of a wider plan to cut more than £50 billion a year from Britain's ballooning benefits bill. Reform says that restricting benefit access for foreign nationals could save around £21 billion annually within 5 years. But I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by GB News' chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster, who was at that release earlier on. He asked the first and the best question. It's infuriated the Labour Party. It's annoyed the Conservative Party. But a lot of people watching this now will say they're sick to the back teeth of going to work, getting up early, seeing people not just from overseas, but people from Britain too, simply being rewarded for doing nothing. Tell us about today's plan.
Yeah, so these are quite radical proposals that would save potentially a lot of money. £50 billion reform says. There's several strands. The most eye-catching is they'll basically stop benefits to pretty much all foreign nationals, including those from the EU that have settled status as a result of the Brexit deal. Nigel Farage says that those with EU settled status account for 58% of foreign welfare claimants. Now, the difficulty with that, of course, is that was part of the Brexit deal that was negotiated, and so we will have to revisit that with the European Union. And that's what I asked Robert Jenrick about and Richard Tice, given that Robert Jenrick, when he was part of the Conservative government, they got that big landslide promising to get Brexit done because people were sick of hearing about it. So there's that. Then there is a big crackdown on disability benefits, personal independence payments, which have doubled in the last 10 years. They're going to get much tougher. They reckon they can halve the costs. Basically, you will only get it for quite severe conditions. Most mental health conditions would not qualify. And then the other thing is that if you're long-term unemployed, you've been out of work for a year or more, reform government would insist that you did 20 hours a week of community service, whether that's working in a library, cleaning up your local park. So all in all, quite a big package of measures. But of course, as we've seen with the Labour government, who wanted to cut £5 billion off welfare, it's one thing to say these things. It's very difficult to take money, though, away from people, especially people who are vulnerable. Reform says that, you know, people with genuine, complex, difficult needs have got nothing to worry about.
It's curious today how both the Conservative Party and the Labour Party have really piled into Reform UK on the same line. This will reopen the wounds of Brexit. The Conservatives say this is dragging Britain back into the Brexit battles, and almost verbatim, I note that the Labour Party says this will plunge the UK back into years of Brexit renegotiations. Now, of course, the reason behind that criticism is that our viewers and listeners might be astonished to learn that there are 747,000 European Union citizens who claim universal credit in the UK right now. 57% of them are employed, which means 43% of them are not. Now, as part of the withdrawal agreement, it was baked into that oven-ready deal that there was a reciprocal benefits deal. But the point is this. There are a mere 30,000 Brits who claim benefits in European Union nations. So quite clearly, this is a Brexit benefit that's left Britain with a bloated benefits bill. Perhaps we should reopen the Brexit renegotiation deal if we're being so clearly shafted here?
Well, it didn't go terribly well last time, many people will say, because, of course, the EU always play hardball, and President Macron of France, particularly so, really enjoyed saying no, was the sort of hard man of the Brexit negotiations. Of course, we don't necessarily know whether he's going to be in power in France in just a year or two. But, yeah, sure, there's 4.3 million EU nationals living in Britain, and there's just 1.3 million Brits living in the EU. But just one point is that you've got to be here for 5 years before you can claim benefits. There's this no recourse to public funds within that point. Once you've been here 5 years, you can then claim indefinite leave to remain, settled status if you were an EU citizen. At that point, if you apply for a passport, you've got a 96% chance of getting one. So if Reform became the next government and brought this in, there'd be nothing to stop, presumably, large numbers of these people simply getting that British passport, and therefore this doesn't apply.
And then they can claim universal credit and, of course, pensions. Because every working age person, if they stay in Britain, becomes a pensioner. Not all of them will have paid their full stamp. It's certainly got people talking. Thank you very much indeed, Catherine. Let's get to my next guest now. I'm delighted to be joined by the Director of Policy in Practice, Devon Galani. Devon, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. What's your take on Reform UK's top line today, that all foreigners should stop getting any benefits in Britain?
Hello, Martin. Good to be on. I think there's a couple of problems with the policy. I mean, firstly, it's disappointing to hear both Labour and the Conservatives focus on the technicalities. You're right about there being no recourse to public funds. You're right about it taking 5 years before you can access benefits if you're from overseas. And yes, there's some challenges with EU and Brexit. But what it actually misses is the contribution that people from overseas are making to this country. And I think there's a bigger argument to be made there, is that the vast majority of people who are coming over here are working, and they're contributing to the state, contributing to the system. And then they need social security, often when they're in work, as you've acknowledged, as well as when they're out of work. And if things happen whereby they lose their job, that's what the social security system is there for, whether you're from overseas or whether you're not. So I think there's an argument to be made here around, well, let's recognise the contribution that people from overseas are making. That's often missed, across the media, including on GB News. And we need to think about what the social security system is there for. It's to help people get back on their feet and get back into work, whether you're from overseas or whether you're from the UK.
Yeah, but Devon, you overlook the basic premise that not all immigrants are the same, and not all immigrants contribute a comparable amount. When you look at the latest figures, 2020, 2019, HMRC tax receipts by nationality for those born overseas, at the top of the league are countries like America, Canada, Australasia, Israel. Make a huge amount of contribution. Relatively few people come over from those countries. But at the bottom of the league, you've got Somalia, Bangladesh, Eritrea, and those types of immigrants, even if they work, never become net contributors. And if they stay, they become pensioners too. They're a net drain on British society. And so we're allowed to have a conversation about being the benefits recipient to the rest of the world. We're not a cash machine.
Yeah, no, it's good to have a conversation about it, absolutely. And obviously it makes sense. If you're from a developed country, you're more likely to have had the education to be able to come here and go straight into a higher paying job. If you're from a less developed country, the likelihood is that you're going to be working more in entry-level positions, which the UK has a huge amount of need for, a huge amount of demand for. If you worked in social care, for example, you'll know that a large proportion of the people working in that sector are from overseas. And obviously we need that group of people. They're obviously lower paid, right? And the fact that they're coming over here and willing to work for lower paid than perhaps they could get in other roles elsewhere is a form of contribution in itself. We need them to make that contribution, whether it's social care, whether it's any other lower paid occupation. And actually, once they've made that contribution, I think they should be treated in the same way as people from the UK working in that same sector.
How about, Devon, killing two birds with one stone and trying to get all the Brits off benefits who are languishing on the dole, particularly young people, and reward them with higher wages? And the Brexiteers always said, pay British people more wages, then we wouldn't need, Boris Johnson's Boris way to open our country to the rest of the entire world. And by the way, a lot of those care workers that came here initially were on less than the minimum wage. It was legalised slave labour. Surely you don't support that?
Well, no, certainly if you put it in that way. I mean, I think there are a couple of points. So firstly, I think the point I agree with you on is that this isn't really about whether you're from overseas or not. It's whether you're out of work and able to make a contribution. Because if you're out of work and able to make a contribution, you absolutely should, whether you're from the UK or whether you're from overseas. Paying people higher salaries, I mean, again, it's not really about if you're an employer, you're not thinking necessarily about where someone's from. All the work I've done on employers is that they would prefer to have someone local, someone from someone who speaks English perfectly. All of these things that they would prefer, people from the UK have an advantage over. And actually, but we're not getting enough Brits in those jobs, and therefore we need people from overseas to be able to contribute. The other thing you have to bear in mind is that when people from overseas come here and work in those lower skilled jobs, often the second generation, like myself, often contribute, can contribute to the UK as well. And sometimes we ignore that contribution too. And we focus on the technicalities, like settled status, like debating the technicalities of, the fact that people from overseas can't access benefits for 5 years, as your colleague acknowledged. So there are some serious protections here for the UK already in place.
But Devon, we do have a situation where people born overseas presently are a £10 billion per year drain on the British taxpayer. That's not sustainable, and many people believe it's simply unfair.
Well, I haven't seen that number, but you have to think about whether or not those people have contributed as well at the same time at any point. So if they haven't, then I'm much more inclined to agree with you. But people have contributed, they've worked here, they've contributed, and they've lost their job, just like can happen to anyone who's working here in the UK. And we all saw that during COVID, right? Everyone more or less lost their jobs all at once. We all needed to rely upon the state for some kind of support. If people lose their jobs, then the system should be there to support them, get back on their feet, get back into work as quickly as possible. When it doesn't do that, it's a failing whether you're from overseas or whether or not you're from the UK. I think making that distinction doesn't always help.
OK, I appreciate your time on the show today. That's the Director of Policy and Practice, Devon Galani. Thank you very much indeed, sir. Now, in response to Reform UK's announcement today, a government spokesman told GB News this. These plans would mean ripping up the UK's withdrawal agreement with the European Union, plunging the UK back into years of Brexit renegotiations and stripping support from potentially millions of people who have lawfully lived, worked and paid taxes in Britain for years and, in many cases, decades. Well, time now for the Great British Giveaway. You've got just 2 weeks left to grab your chance to win 60 grand in tax-free moolah and a gold bar worth a cool 5 grand. Here's Hayley Sparks with all of the details.
Welcome to All is Santi by Domes Resorts. There's just 4 days left to see how you could win big in our golden summer celebration.
And you could be enjoying a golden year with an incredible £60,000 to be won.
That's tax-free cash that you'll get to spend on anything you like. What would you do with it?
You could relax knowing that we've got those day-to-day financial pressures sorted.
Or find yourself celebrating in the lap of five-star luxury, somewhere like here, the Spritzeria.
Plus, we'll give you a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 that you can keep or gift to a loved one.
Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on Friday.
For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, don't go anywhere. Still to come next, we'll be discussing the Taxpayers Alliance. Their bombshell warning today about how high our real national debt could be. They reckon it could be 3-4 times what the government claims it is. And also next, fury has erupted after it's emerged that Henry Novak's killer, Vikram Digwa, is enjoying cosy Zoom calls with his mother, Kiran Kaur. Also jailed, as you recall, for concealing Henry Novak's murder weapon. Here's the question. Should killers really be enjoying perks such as this while they're in prison? That's next here on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me. What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans? Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account. You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, this Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racist tonight on the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m, only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Times 5:26. Breaking news for you now. It says at 7 p.m. this evening on GB News Tonight with me, Martin Daubney, will reveal our exclusive investigation that exposes how local authorities are recommending an asylum toolkit for illegal immigrants. And it was created by a pro-open borders charity. Yes, tonight we revealed the dark underbelly of the migrant crisis, a radical left-wing migrant NGO helping illegal migrants get accepted by the Home Office. That's all to come at 7 p.m. tonight. Plus, I'll be joined by Robert Jenrick on the show, the man of the moment in terms of Reform UK's plan to slash £21 billion a year from the migrant benefits bill by the end of 5 years' time. Now, moving on, the killer of Henry Novak is reportedly being allowed prison-to-prison video calls with his mother, who, of course, is behind bars for hiding the murder weapon. New reports reveal the pair will be allowed to communicate by video while serving their sentences. And here's the question. Should killers and their accomplices really be enjoying such cosy perks? Let's now speak with David Shipley, the journalist and the great commentator on the show. David, it was always a pleasure to have your company. The Novaks will never see their beautiful boy again. They'll never get to speak to him. They'll never get to hear from him on important occasions. Ever again, they're serving a life sentence. Does it stick in your craw to learn that Vikram Digwar, the killer of Henry Novak, and his mother, an accomplice, Kieran Kaur, are enjoying cosy video chats?
Yeah, it's also quite surprising because calls between prisoners in different prisons are pretty rare. They're normally only allowed in very limited circumstances. And actually, Kieran Kaur is going to be out by the end of the year, in all likelihood, given the new early release scheme. So it doesn't seem that, they're both going to be away for a really long time and there's some necessity of letting them have contact. I just don't really see what the argument for this is. Unless, of course, his mother is gravely ill or something like that we're not aware of. And then there might be a compassionate grounds for letting them have that conversation.
It just feels like, we speak a lot on this channel about the perks that prisoners enjoy. And when you recall the particulars of this case, how Vikram Digwa repeatedly lied to the police. He claimed there was a racist attack. Henry Novak bled to death on the pavement. Wasn't even read his final goodbyes. He was read his rights as he lay dying, choking on his own blood. The case is so grisly, it's almost hard to speak about, but nevertheless, we must remember he then phoned his mum, who came to the scene, took away the murder weapon, concealed it at home, delaying the investigation, causing huge pain and trauma. Now, when you think about that, why should they be allowed just to sort of chat away on the phone as if nothing's happened?
Yeah, and I think when we think about what actually happened, I think actually Kiran Kaur's conviction rather undersells her role. She turned up and she must have seen there was a dying Henry Novak and her son there with a bloodied knife. So she clearly knew what had happened. And whereas a decent person in that situation would phone the ambulance, would phone the police, would get emergency care for the dying boy, she tried to cover up her son's killing. So actually it's not just a slight helping an offender. She was really complicit in that in a really horrific way. And I said it's not normal for prisoners to be allowed to call their relatives or loved ones in other jails if they're also prisoners. That's actually really rare, and it's usually only in the case where there's some particular extremely good reason, or if they have to prepare a defence, they have to a conference call with their lawyers. It shouldn't just be for social chat, particularly, as I said, in this case, where the mother's going to be out by Christmas anyway. Surely they can wait till then.
And it sticks in the craw even further when you say that she could be out by Christmas, and no doubt then she'll be allowed to go and visit him in person.
Yeah, she will be. And I think the sentence that Kiran Kaur got was far too low. And I think my view personally is the CPS undercharged on that. They could have gone for, perverting the course of justice. They could even have gone for, a culpable homicide charge. And they chose to charge, on assisting an offender, which is a relatively low-level offence. And I don't think that's right, actually. I think they should have taken it seriously.
David Shipley, I think a great many people watching and listening to GBNews would agree with you. Thank you very much indeed, David Shipley. Always a pleasure to have your company. Thank you for joining us today on GBNews. Now, plenty more still to come on today's show, but now, if you're travelling home from work, here's your traffic and your travel update. Stay safe and stick with us.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M6 is closed between junctions 15 and 16 in Stoke-on-Trent after a collision. The M27 westbound is closed between junctions 9 and 8 in Bursleden, and the M20 is closed between junctions 7 and 9 in Bearsted. The M23 southbound has an obstruction between junctions 8 and 9 in Reigate. In Scotland, the A78 between Dunlop Street and A8 Ratho Street is closed in both directions in Dunlop Street to A8 Ratho Street. Across Wales, the A44 from Aberystwyth to Llanbadarn 4 is closed. And on the trains, Greater Anglia services are facing major disruption between Shenfield and Southend Victoria. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
You're watching and listening to GB News. The headlines tonight at 5:30. Robert Jenrick has vowed to end the foreign welfare rip-off and said Reform UK will restore fairness to the system. It comes as the parties unveil plans to strip foreign nationals of their right to claim almost all benefits in Britain under a Reform UK government. The party claims the move could save around £21 billion a year. It's emerged that Andy Burnham exchanged messages with someone impersonating Donald Trump's chief of staff. The Prime Minister was in contact with an unknown individual pretending to be top White House aide Susie Wiles before concerns were raised about the incident. The government is facing calls tonight to publish the criteria for issuing emergency alerts following criticism that the national wildfire warning was unnecessary. Head of the Cabinet Office, Louise Hayes, understood to have signed off on the nationwide alert, which warned barbecues and fireworks could start blazes. And family, friends and fans of Bonnie Tyler have gathered in Swansea today for the Welsh singer's funeral. The Total Eclipse of the Heart star died in July at the age of 75. Those are this evening's headlines. More still to come with Martin right after this.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Cloud thickening during the rest of today from the north, and it's in the north where it will become increasingly wet. Light showers will affect the south overnight, but no substantial rain expected to relieve the situation, at least for the next few days. We've actually seen some sunshine during the day so far across Wales and the southwest, but the cloud does fill in for many places overnight. The heaviest rain moves through Scotland, pushing into Orkney by midnight, and it swings across northern parts of England, North Wales and so on before it turns more showery at the end of the night. Cloudy skies, a mild night for many, temperatures staying in the teens. Then a grey and damp start for much of the UK first thing Tuesday. The most persistent rain still lingering across the far north and northeast of Scotland. Meanwhile, it's more of a showery picture for western Scotland. Drier and clearer to the east. Northern Ireland seeing plenty of showers first thing, not particularly heavy. They'll be moving through reasonably quickly as well. Much of northern and western England as well as central parts, and for Wales, thick cloud giving some light showers, but again, nothing substantial expected at the moment. Those showers will continue through the morning, and then as the afternoon approaches, in the south the cloud will lift and break, sunny spells emerge. Another day in which it will feel humid, but it's still going to be a little cooler compared with recent days. And for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, a lot of thick cloud, frequent showers, if not longer spells of rain for some. Largely avoiding Shetland, however, where it will be cool, 13 Celsius. In the south, 25, 26 Celsius, more likely, given the thinning of the cloud and sunshine coming through. Some clear spells in the far south for a time into the evening. And then we've got this system, areas of rain moving into the south. And actually, the picture from Wednesday onwards is of a more unsettled outlook with frequent showers for many.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
It's 5:37. Welcome back. You're with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, Andy Burnham, the Prime Minister, has been duped by somebody claiming to be one of Donald Trump's top officials. The Prime Minister exchanged messages with someone impersonating the US President's Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles. Now, it's understood no messages of significance sent, and the suspicious activity was quickly reported to the appropriate authorities. Nevertheless, has our PM dropped something of a clanger? Well, I'm joined by my GB News colleague and the man who's usually sat in the channel, our Deputy Political Editor, Tom Harwood. Tom, a magnificent setting there with the White House behind you. Our Prime Minister has fallen for a scam.
Well, he certainly seems to, and this story isn't just making waves in the United Kingdom, but over here in the United States, it's certainly being picked up too. The New York Times, the CBS News, these stations have been covering it because it funnels into another story that was quite big on this side of the Atlantic last year when Susie Wiles, the Chief of Staff in the building behind me, an incredibly powerful mover and shaker in Washington, D.C., the person who co-ran Donald Trump's successful presidential campaign in 2024, well, she had her phone hacked last year, and a number of people, business leaders, senators, congressmen, had these sorts of suspicious communications from people who seemed to have stolen her contact list. Now, the White House says that this is not to do with that phone hack, that this incident with Andy Burnham couldn't have been to do with that phone hack because Susie Wiles didn't have Andy Burnham's phone number last year when he was merely the Mayor of Greater Manchester rather than the Prime Minister. And yet, could this be some sort of copycat? Because we do know that senior British political officials have had these sorts of suspicious messages thrown at them. David Cameron, when he was the Foreign Secretary, had someone pretending to be Petro Poroshenko, the former president of Ukraine, talking to him on the phone, and eventually he had rumbled that. Indeed, Boris Johnson as well, when he was Foreign Secretary in 2018, he had some pranksters phone him up, Russian pranksters, claiming to be the new Prime Minister of Armenia. But of course, if we want to think of a Prime Minister who's fallen victim to such a hoax, well, we have to go back to 1998 and think to Tony Blair, newly in Downing Street as he was then, when he was phoned up by a man by the name of Steve Penk, a radio DJ, a prankster, pretending to be then leader of the opposition, William Hague.
Hello, Tony.
Yeah.
Hello there, it's William Hague.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd, just phone it for a chat. Say hello, see how you're getting on, that sort of thing.
It's quite a good imitation.
Well, that's, it's, I mean, we do get quite a lot of imposters calling our central office.
Well, they ended up speaking for about 3 minutes on that phone call. It seems that Andy Burnham only exchanged a few messages with this imposter pretending to be the White House Chief of Staff. And Martin, as you say, Downing Street insist that nothing of consequence was sent across this insecure communications.
Thank you very much indeed, Tom Harwood there in Washington, D.C. Seeing much more of Tom out there stateside. Thank you very much indeed, Tom Harwood. Now, back to British politics with a bang. A dire warning about the size of our national debt. It's currently predicted to be at £3 trillion in the next couple of years. But it's being claimed by that the real national debt, including state pensions and many public sector pension schemes, is on course to hit an eye-watering and astonishing £11.7 trillion by the next financial year. How can that on earth be the case? Well, I'm joined by William Yarwood, who, of course, is the campaign's director at the Taxpayers Alliance. William, always a pleasure and never a chore. Tell us, how can £3 trillion suddenly transform into nearly £12 trillion?
Well, because they don't include things like public sector pension liabilities and state pension liabilities and PFI contract liabilities and various other things on the books. Now, they do record them, Martin, but they don't record them as proper liabilities or proper debt. But debt is money you owe. Debt is money you owe, and we owe money to pensioners, we owe money to public sector workers who have pension schemes, we owe money to these PFI contracts. Then surely these need to be included in our overall national debt, not just for transparency reasons, but so taxpayers can know how in debt this country really, really is.
It's absolutely astonishing, the single amount of money here. William, as I've got you here, can I ask you about a huge announcement today from Reform UK? You and I have spoken many, many, many times on the channel about the ballooning benefits bill and how it's simply unsustainable. Reform UK today primarily pledging to stop all universal credit benefits altogether to foreign nationals. What do you think of that?
Good. Good. And I think that all of the people who have been whinging about it today and being all high status and complaining about EU withdrawal agreements and blah, 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 need to get real. If there is a will, there is a way. And I think that anybody who is siding with foreign nationals claiming welfare over British taxpayers and over people who genuinely need it is in reality not taking the issue seriously. But also I think broadly with the reforms welfare plans, I think £50 billion is actually a really ambitious target. It's really great to see that they're taking this seriously. And of course, as time goes on, we're going to get more into the detail regarding what that is going to look like. So I think Generic and Reform taking this seriously is really important, and I think taking money and taking foreign nationals out of that equation in regards to the welfare bill is great news for British taxpayers.
What about PIP payments? We've seen an incredible figure where the amount of benefits payments to sick people has doubled in just a few years. Do you seriously believe that we're twice as sick as we were a few years ago, or are people taking the mickey?
I think people are taking the mickey to some extent, Martin, but it's also because people are using things like anxiety, ADHD, depression as reasons to get into the welfare system and more specifically onto PIP, and indeed that enhanced rate of PIP which entitles you to things like the Motability Scheme where you can get yourself a nice car. But in regards to PIP more broadly, one thing that's been interesting in this welfare reforms that Generic and Reform are proposing is that they actually do want to do away with PIP and integrate it into something else. That's actually something the TB has called for before. We've also called for the means testing of PIP, and if the removal of PIP and then the integration into this new system and then means testing it, well, actually, that actually means testing for PIP in all but name. That's a really, really positive thing, as is getting rid of people off the welfare system who are claiming for anxiety, ADHD and depression.
A lot of people say this is a cruel policy, it's a racist policy, but the fact of the matter is a great many countries around the world don't allow foreign nationals to claim benefits.
Yeah.
I lived in Australia. It was very, very clear you couldn't afford to support yourself. Clear off.
Yeah, precisely. And I don't think that it is the job of the British taxpayer, of British taxpayers, to be supporting foreign nationals who come here, who are perhaps topping up their low-wage work with welfare benefits. I think it is the job of the welfare state to protect British people first and to put the interest of British taxpayers first in regards to costs. And I think that this proposal to remove foreign nationals from the welfare system is a very, very, very good proposal indeed.
William Yarwood, superb stuff as ever. You've had your Weedy Bix. Thanks for joining us in the studio in Westminster. Now, regarding the debt figure discussed, a Treasury spokesperson told GB News this. We do not recognise this figure. The OBR's March forecast shows that debts will be falling as a share of GDP a year earlier than required by the fiscal rules and will be lower at the end of the forecast period than at spring forecast. So there we are, we've been told. Now, coming up next, the share of people saying they're proud to be British has plummeted in the past 15 years. Look at it. Parliament, the BBC, the legal system, the monarchy, the Union flag. That's going through the floor in terms of pride. What's going on? And what can be done to turn this around? That's next. But first, if you're searching some holiday sun, then here is the forecast for some of your top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. Apart from the odd isolated thunderstorm, most of the Mediterranean will see plenty of dry, hot and sunny weather over the next few days. A bit of a breeze though for Madeira, perhaps bringing the odd shower here on Tuesday. Otherwise, Spain and Portugal, cloudless skies, lots of sunshine here. Perhaps the odd afternoon and evening thunderstorm across the spine of Italy, parts of the Balkans and Greece and Turkey, but these mostly inland, coastal regions remaining generally dry, sunny and hot, and the outlook is for temperatures to remain in the low to mid-30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Music, as anybody knows, from Scotland or Ireland, it is very, very important to us all here. Most of us can lift a musical instrument, and actually there's a great children's band on stage at the minute, but I've managed to capture some people here. Where are you from?
We're from Dungannon.
And why are you here at the Fla?
We're here just for the music, the atmosphere and just the all-round celebration. It's a very proud moment for Belfast, and it's lovely to have the children out on their summer holidays, and I have a daughter who is playing and another one who's coming along to sing.
Well, let's hear you play. What are you going to play for us?
I'm going to play In the Share.
Well, go ahead.
Thank you.
The People's Channel, Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
People that have lived in London have chosen to move out because they don't feel... It's not about feeling safe as much. It's about feeling that they don't recognise London as the capital city of England anymore.
Well, I can't answer for those people. I mean, I think, you know, there are places all over the country that change. You know, there is a constant churn. There are parts of London that were once terribly, you know, poverty-stricken and that are now gentrified and are full of completely different places, to the point that local people, local communities have been squeezed out. There are places, you know, which have changed because the demographic changes. But, I mean, that happens everywhere.
You can say that about Bradford, you can say that about parts of Birmingham and these kind of things, some of these areas as well. But if you look at London, it's always been a bit of a melting pot.
Yeah.
It's the capital of a trading nation. It's why we have one of the best stock exchanges in the world, why we have the most investment, you know, foreign investment into this country.
The People's Channel. Patrick Christie's Tonight. Weekdays from 9 p.m.
Michelle, how do you feel when you look back at that 5 years there, from where we first started in and out of those lockdowns?
Well, I've got to say, hang on.
I've got to, right, first things first. I've worked on live TV for half a decade and I still forget to talk into a microphone.
Easily done.
What can I say? Well, you look back on some of that and you actually forget some of the absolute ridiculousness that has gone on in the last 5 years. And I think you summed it up well. When you go back to that period of the lockdown, the ridiculous control, the enforced vaccine mandates, you could feel like you was just going mad in your own little world. And to me, GB News, we really, really came into our own.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. Time is 5:49. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, here's a question for you. Are you proud to be British? Well, if the answer is yes, then I'm afraid there are fewer and fewer people who feel the same way as you. A Demos poll has found that in the last 15 years, the number of people who are proud to be a British citizen has plummeted from a net 74% to just 47%. Now, British people's pride in some of this country's major institutions like the BBC and the monarchy has completely collapsed since 2011, as you can see on your screens now. Well, I'm joined now by the former BBC journalist, great friend of the show, Danny Kelly. Danny, are you proud to be British still?
Yeah, tremendously proud to be British, Martin. I tell you what infuriates the hell out of me, Martin, is that I've just come back from Greece, where there are Greek flags flying everywhere. The year before, I was in Turkey. Turkish flags flying everywhere. You don't get dopey, lefty liberals telling you that it's racist to fly flags in Greece or Turkey. Do you know what, mate? We are suckers, because about 40 or 50 years ago, some progressive left-winger all of a sudden decided to come up with a lie that the Union Jack, which is flying beautifully in the wind on our television screens, had been hijacked by the far right. I remember at the BBC, when I first joined 20-odd years ago, the most senior producer at the station telling me that that flag had been hijacked by the far right. It's a complete lie. It's a fallacy. You name me another country in the world where the far right have hijacked the national flag. Not in Greece, not in Turkey, not in the United States, where the left wing will fly the national flag. And the BBC are partly responsible, Martin, for perpetuating this rubbish. Just remember Naga Manchetti in 2021, who openly mocked and ridiculed the Union Jack. People at the BBC, when GB News decided to open up before breakfast with the national anthem, a brilliant decision. Believe you me, they would have sneered, they would have ridiculed, they would have looked down your noses at GB News and the BBC world. They really would. They've done nothing to help this.
Let's get that graphic back on screen now, Danny. Let's look at your particular experience and expertise as a former BBC employee. The institution that's had the biggest decrease in confidence is the BBC, down an astonishing 59 points in 15 years to minus 11. It's underwater in terms of the faith that people have in it. And what do you think is precipitating such a downhill decline, going faster than the Jamaican bobsleigh team?
That's correct. Well, listen, with pride becomes also you need trust. So trust and pride are interlinked. And look what's happened in the last 15 years at the BBC. You've had that filthy rat, Jimmy Savile, exposed as the paedophile that he was. You've also got Hugh Edwards more recently. Martin Bashir with the stitch-up with Princess Diana, that 1995 interview, where the BBC stitched up Princess Diana. That came to light in the last 15 years. You've got the Gaza documentary more recently. You've got the Glastonbury set with Bob Villain. You've got Donald Trump, of course, currently going through litigation in America. So it goes hand in hand. Faith in an organisation. If you have no faith in the organisation and you believe that that organisation isn't patriotic, which it isn't, then you lose trust in the organisation. And of course, you got Gary Lineker being paid 1.25 million quid until last year to be a political activist.
You know, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Danny. You really, really have. And it's just very, very alarming to find out that the pride in the Union flag is down from 61 to 45%, 16 points down. I wonder if it's because our kids are being taught to be ashamed of our flag at school. Danny Kelly, always a pleasure, never a chore. See you again soon, mate. Now, that's it from me today. Well, it's not. I'll be back at 7 p.m, an exclusive on NGOs undermining Britain. And I'll be joined by Robert Jenrick about Reform UK's plan to slash benefits for foreigners. Up next, of course, is Tubes & Co. Dawn Neeson is hosting it tonight. I'll see you at 7.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within.
Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Cloud thickening during the rest of today from the north, and it's in the north where it will become increasingly wet. Light showers will affect the south overnight, but no substantial rain expected to relieve the situation, at least for the next few days. We've actually seen some sunshine during the day so far across Wales and the southwest, but the cloud does fill in for many places overnight. The heaviest rain moves through Scotland, pushing into Orkney by midnight, and it swings across northern parts of England, North Wales and so on before it turns more showery at the end of the night. Cloudy skies, a mild night for many, temperatures staying in the teens. Then a grey and damp start for much of the UK first thing Tuesday. The most persistent rain still lingering across the far north and northeast of Scotland. Meanwhile, it's more of a showery picture for western Scotland. Drier and clearer to the east. Northern Ireland seeing plenty of showers first thing, not particularly heavy. They'll be moving through reasonably quickly as well. Much of northern and western England as well as central parts, and for Wales, thick cloud giving some light showers, but again, nothing substantial expected at the moment. Those showers will continue through the morning, and then as the afternoon approaches, in the south the cloud will lift and break, sunny spells emerge. Another day in which it will feel humid, but it's still going to be a little cooler compared with recent days. And for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, a lot of thick cloud, frequent showers, if not longer spells of rain for some. Largely avoiding Shetland, however, where it will be cool, 13 Celsius. In the south, 25, 26 Celsius, more likely, given the thinning of the cloud and sunshine coming through. Some clear spells in the far south for a time into the evening. And then we've got this system, areas of rain moving into the south. And actually, the picture from Wednesday onwards is of a more unsettled outlook with frequent showers for many.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The A31 is closed at Junction 2 in Ringwood. The M25 clockwise has a report of collision between junctions 13 and 14 in Staines. The M11 southbound has a report of collision between junctions 7 and 6 in Thaden Boy. In Scotland, the M90 northbound has 2 lanes restricted at junction 1 in Scotstoun. Across Wales, the A44 from Aberystwyth to Lambadarn 4 is closed. And on the trains, Greater Anglia services have major disruption between Shenfield and Southend Victoria. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win over £65,000 in prizes. You could be our latest Great British Giveaway winner. First of all, we want to give you £60,000 in tax-free cash. Plus, you'll also receive a fine gold bar worth over £5,000.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo, every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
More and more people are now tuning in to GB News.
They shape our programmes, we try and incorporate them in our shows as much as we can.
Our audience are really interactive.
Our listeners, our viewers, they're growing.
And that's because they tell their friends and family about what we're doing here at GB News.
It feels like the depth of that connection has strengthened as well.
Thank you so much for speaking to us on GB News. Come and say hello to everybody that's here from GB News.
It's been an exceptional event.
We've come a long way here now.
What's so unique about GB News viewers is that they really, really love our country.
And they talk about us so proudly. We're on a journey together.
We are here for all of Britain. We believe in this country, we believe in its people, and we believe in all of the communities who live here.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good evening, it's 6 o'clock, I'm Dawn Neeson and this is Jubes & Co and have we got a show for you. An Eritrean migrant has been found guilty of raping a pensioner outside a church in North London. This incredibly vile attack has shocked the nation and prompted widespread questions about Britain's borders. Meanwhile, the big story of the day from Reform, yet Reform UK have pledged to ban foreigners from claiming almost all benefits. They claim the policy would save the taxpayer £21 billion a year within 5 years. But will it work? And it didn't just stop there, did it? Reform's Treasury spokesperson, Robert Jenrick, also announced a plan to make the claimants sweep the streets to earn their benefits. Could that radical plan work? And a major nationalist bonfire in Northern Ireland, which set light to remembrance poppies, Israeli flags and Rangers FC shirts, is being treated by police as a hate crime. Have they got that right? Maybe we should do it more. And my panel tonight, man of the moment. Do you want to get your questions in now for him? Reform UK Home Affairs spokesperson Zia Youssef and former Labour MP Bill Rammell. But first, let's get the latest news headlines with Sam Francis.
Dawn, thank you, and a very good evening to you. The top story tonight at 6. Reform UK says foreign nationals should be banned from claiming almost all benefits in Britain. That ban would cover housing benefit, child benefit, free childcare, disability benefits and other welfare payments. But it would also include EU nationals with settled status, meaning Reform would have to renegotiate parts of the Brexit deal with Brussels. The party also says long-term benefits claimants who are fit to work would have to do 20 hours a week in the community or face sanctions. Well, earlier today, Robert Jenrick said the plan would end what he called the foreign welfare rip-off and save around £21 billion every year.
The British taxpayer is acting as the welfare state for the world. That's unfair. We all know it. There are 6.6 million working-age people in the UK claiming out-of-work benefits.